High energy equals high income. I'm going to say that to you again because I want you to be clear on it. High energy equals high income. I want everybody to be clear on something. This is the good shit, not the bullshit. How many of you guys have been to meetings where you feel as though you are going to fall asleep within 5 minutes of the speaker speaking? Anybody besides me? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, high income equals high what? So let's try that again. How many people have been in meetings like that? Say aye. Aye. Okay, yes. And I've been in meetings like that too. And our intention today is really to equip you, right, with what you need in a changing environment. Because has anybody besides me noticed that the environment has changed dramatically? Anybody besides me? Oh, yeah. Yes, 100%. So I need to really have a plan in place for when the environment changes. And to illustrate my point, let's imagine for a moment that we were all going to go on a trip together, right? And let's say we decided to go to the beach, okay? Now the beach is a very specific environment, is it not? And because it's high income equals high what? Energy. The beach is a very specific environment, yes? Yes. Yes, it is, and it requires a very specific strategy. Because environments require strategy. Now let's say we want to really enjoy our time at the beach. What would we need? What would our strategy be? What would we bring with us? Sunscreen. Okay, sunscreen. What else? Umbrella. What else? Towels. What else? This is awesome. Snacks. What else? Drinks, I heard. Yeah, okay, what else? A book. What else? A bathing suit would be good, so you're not naked. Yeah, that'd be fucking good. What else? Surfboard. What else? A friend. A friend. Aw, a friend. Aw. Everybody say, aw. Right? Laptop so I can write some deals, do some deals. Let's go. So you notice, we all know that strategy, do we not? Anybody besides me ever screwed that strategy up? Ever forgot the sunscreen and ended up burnt to a fucking crisp? Anybody besides me? Yeah, how many times does that happen? Maybe once or twice, and you learn your what? Lesson about that particular strategy. Is that accurate? Because environments, very specific environments, require specific strategies. Yes, high energy equals? Okay, good. You guys are getting with the program. This is good. I like this. Now let's imagine that we were going to change our environment. We go skiing. That is a completely different what? Strategy is required for that environment. Is it not? Yes. So what would our strategy be then? Warm clothes. Warm clothes. What else? Snow boots. What else? Jackets. What else? Gloves with a little hot shit to keep your hands warm, right? What else? Sunscreen. What else? Goggles, right? Lip balm. What else? Mitten. Okay, so do you notice that we have strategies for particular environments? Is that accurate? Yes. Exactly. Now, what would have happened if we tried to use this strategy for the beach for the strategy for skiing? What happens? A sad story, Peter says. A very sad story. You are not going to be a happy individual. Do you understand? So here's my question for you. We all agreed that the environment, because real estate and the market is an environment. And, newsflash, it changes. But what happens if I'm using the same strategy for a different environment?
A recipe for failure.
Oh yeah, and I watch you guys do it. I watch you guys bang your head against the wall using the same strategy over and over again for the beach when you should be using a strategy for skiing. And then you start to think there's something wrong with, no, that's not true. You're just using the wrong strategy. Would you think there was something wrong with you if you forgot sunscreen? Would you say I'm a terrible person? No. You just screwed up the strategy. And the same is true here. How do I know that this is true? When I first started selling real estate in 2006, that was a very specific economic environment. Now, was anybody here actually selling real estate at that time? Show of hands? Okay, just a handful of people. So most of you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. So let's go to the people who actually knew. Vicente, you were selling real estate at that time?
Yes.
What was that environment like in 2006?
Crazy.
Crazy. And what were some characteristics of it?
Out of control, fast, litigious, foreclosures, short sales.
Well, so here's what's interesting. In 2006, that was the lead up. So 2006, multiple offers. 2006, relative cheap money. 2006, prices going up 18 to 20%. 2006, the lenders in the room had no standards. They were loan skanks. Okay? You know what you could actually do back then? You could say, hey, you know what? I make $150,000, and they wouldn't even fucking check. Oh. That's fucking crazy. Like, now that we say that out loud, you're like, who thought that was a good idea? But that's what that environment was like. And I was brand new. I lived in Gainesville, Florida. I just got my real estate license, and there were these things called condo conversions, where they put lipstick on a pig, and they sell it to people, right? They take an old apartment, put a little lipstick on it, put some new curtains, some new carpet, and sell it. But that's what the environment was giving, and people were buying them hand over fist. So what do you think I sold a lot of? Condos. Pigs. But pigs, exactly right. Got no problem selling a pig. Okay? Then the environment changed in 2008. Oh, that was a totally different environment. What prompted the environment to change? Yeah, greed, really, right? Everybody got greedy, right? Bankers, individuals. We like to blame the bankers, but we were the ones taking the loans to buy the shit. So everybody got greedy, and it collapsed, right? What happened to all those buyers buying condo conversions? They disappeared. Now, can you imagine if I kept using that strategy? What would have happened? I'd have a different job right now. I wouldn't be standing in front of you. You see, Charles Darwin says it's not the fastest, the quickest, or the strongest that survive. It's the ones that are the most receptive to change. But do you know why you guys don't want to change? Because you get certainty from doing shit that you used to do before. Does that make sense? It makes you feel safe. Because money has an addictive quality, and because of it, you get addicted to the way that you receive it. So you keep going back to the same well. I hear agents saying now, I need to get back to the basics. Now there's some basics like prospect, lead, follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate deals. What they're really saying is, I have to go back to work. I fucking really like not having to work and make a lot of money. How many people like that? Was that cool? Yeah. But what they're also saying is, I got to go back to the shit I was doing before. But the environment changed. Is this clear to everybody? Say aye. Aye. So what did I do to deal with that environment? Because it radically changed. Right? I went from I was 26 years old, I made $150,000 selling these little condo conversions. I thought I was the man. And then it just disappeared overnight. So I went out and I got access, because you're one relationship away from finding the opportunity. You're one relationship away from changing your family tree for the rest of your life. Jose just mentioned that. He's also changed my life, because I wouldn't be standing here in front of you if it wasn't for him. Make sense? Okay, so I got access to the best coaches, the best trainers, the best mentors. I paid hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money. And now I no longer worry if the marketplace changes for myself or the clients that I coach. Because I know in every fucking market there is an opportunity. I just need to know where it is, not where it isn't or was. Yes. You see, the law of finding says you'll find something when you look for it where it actually is, not where it isn't. If you're looking for it in expireds right now, hey, guess what? It's not there. Your inventory's this low. How many expireds do you have a day? How many people who prospect? Three. Is that enough leads to do the deals you want? No. So if you keep banging your head against the wall, what is that a recipe for? You should probably try a different. Oh shit, you guys are getting this. Let's go. He's getting it. That's a nice watch, brother. So I got access, right? And now I no longer worry about that. And I believe that everybody in this room, guys, fully and completely, the way I know the sky is blue and the grass is green, is that everybody in this room with the right strategy, if they knew where to look, and the right systems and the right skills, you can dominate any marketplace, including this one.
Let's go.
Okay? I spent the last 17 years of my career selling 2,000 homes, with 80% of that business being listings sold. You can clap that shit up. Let's go. And that was because I shifted with the marketplace as it changed. And I changed my strategy. Okay? So what me and Jose are going to do today, because we were thinking about this, just giving you guys a listing presentation, that would have been fantastic and amazing. But I started to ask myself, what is their biggest challenge right now? Your biggest challenge right now is having appointments to give a listing presentation on. Do you understand? Yes. Yeah, she's like, amen, hallelujah, right? That's what the challenge is. Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is a few things. One is I'm going to show you in a moment specifically what's happening in your marketplace, why it's happening, and approximately how long it's going to persist. Okay? Because hoping and wishing and praying is not a strategy. It's a weight loss program. Okay? You'll end up having to get another job. Like, that's what it is, right? The second thing we're going to do is Jose's going to do a fantastic, marvelous job of breaking down where the opportunities for listings are. Is that something you guys want to know about? Say yes. Yes. Hell yes, because this guy's going to do over $1.8 million in GCI. Oh, poor Jose. Anybody feel bad for him? I don't. Because he knows where to look. He shifted his strategy. So we're going to give it to you. We're going to open it up and say, hey, here's specifically the sources that you should be looking at so you can find inventory. Because is your problem right now buyers? No. What is your problem? Do you understand? Then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to go through, briefly and quickly, the structure of a listing presentation, what to say and how to say it, because at a lot of these types of meetings, they give you this generalized bullshit information, like it's all mindset. And I'm like, you're an asshole. Because it's not all mindset. If I had a powerful mindset and I went to the beach with no sunscreen, no water, no snack, what's going to happen? I'm going to burn and I'll dehydrate. It's not only mindset, right? So then we're going to go over specifically that tactical information on what to say and how to say it, and the structure to increase the probability that when you find that opportunity with an 80 to 85% likelihood, you'll be able to execute on it and get the contract signed. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. Good. So let's get into it. Let's go. So what's happening? In Ventura County right now, I know you guys work in all different counties. I was here exactly 1 year ago. Who was in the room when I was here a year ago? Hell yeah, look at that. Repeat customers. That means this shit is dope. So a year ago, when I was here, the active listings on the market was 1,500. Now the active listings on the market is just under 1,000. That means inventory's going down. Interesting. Which means you're all competing for? Do you see what's part of the problem? Yep. Now, the other thing that's happened, look, is that not only is the inventory down, but when I was here last year, the sales were, it doesn't have the number there, but I know what it was. It was about 863. Now it's below 500. So that means the inventory is half of what it was before, almost. It dropped by 40%. And the sales almost got cut in half. Are you starting to realize why a lot of you guys have anxiousness, tension, and worry about what's going on? Look, she's like, yes. Do you have a camera? Have you been watching me? This is what's going on, guys. And no amount of fucking cheerleading is going to change it. No amount of fucking, David Goggins is going to change it. Do you understand? Cold plunges aren't going to change it. Podcasts aren't going to fucking change it. It's what it is. So I have to deal with it. Because your ability to produce outcomes that are favorable in your life is directly correlated with your ability to deal with reality. Most people don't deal with reality. I had a mentor tell me one time, he's like, you want to know what reality is? Take all your clothes off and stand in the mirror. It's what it is. There's no negotiating that, right? It's just what it is. Look at everybody like, oh shit, that is what it is, huh? So this is what's happening, right? And simultaneously, what's also happening is 90% of all homeowners have a mortgage that's less than 6%. I want you guys to understand something. You will look on Amazon for 3 hours to try to save $50 on a product. You're trying to convince people to purchase properties where their payment is double. This is the reason why part of the reason why there's a shortage of inventory, right? And look at the stats. So 92% of homeowners have a mortgage that's less than 6%. It's almost all of them. 82% have a rate below 5%, and 62% have a rate below 4%, and close to a quarter less than 3%. Does it make sense why we went from 1,500 to 1,000 active listings? Okay? Now, the question is how long is that going to persist for? Anybody notice that mortgage rates are now above 7%? I was here last year and I said that's going to persist. People are like, meh. I remember having conversations with Tim, and we'd have these nuanced debates about, these highbrow conversations about the economy. I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, interest rates are going up here because this is what happened the last time this happened. It's like, oh, well, I don't know. Like, here it is, 7%, over 7%. And with a super high degree of probability, that's going to persist for the next 12 to 18 months. Right? There's a high degree of probability that when comes election time, because everybody wants your votes, that'll come down. Right? Look, people who are seasoned are like, yup. But that means we have to deal with this for how long? 18 months. You see, if you're sitting wishing and praying it's going to be away in a month, it's not a good strategy. Okay? So, and as we look at this even more, is that mortgage rates are unlikely to drop below 6% by the end of the year. They're going to stay up this high, guys. They're not going to change. So the only people in these environments that are going to do something, what's the one thing they all have in common? Either buying or selling. They have to. Not like, hey, I want some more like backyard for my dog. That's not going to cut it. They need to be experiencing pain. What would be examples of pain? Divorce is painful. What else? Death. What else? Loss of job. What else? Huh? Debt. Can't afford it. What else? Right? Death, divorce, job relocation, moving to assisted living facilities, retirement. Do you understand? Those are the only people that are actually definitely going to do something. Now, the other thing I want you to be clear on as to why you're experiencing what you're experiencing and why you're feeling what you're feeling is we are projected to have 4.2 million sales in the calendar year of 2023. Last year we had over 6 million. The last time we had 4.2 million sales was 2009. There was only 990,000 real estate agents. Today we have 1.6 million. This is the real estate Hunger Games team. That means 600,000 extra people are chasing what? The same opportunities, guys. Do you understand what's happening here? This is why you're feeling what you're feeling. It's why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. But I need you to know and understand, the best businesses are started in this time. I started my business in 2006 and 2008 it imploded. Why is it the best? Because it forces you to become faster, quicker, stronger, more disciplined, more consistent. Right? It forces it to happen.
Got it. So for those of you that were selling real estate in 2009, 10, 11, and 12, would you guys say that that was a good time to be a real estate agent? 2008, 9, 10, 11, or 12? How many of you guys would look at the real estate market at that point and be like, man, I want to be a real estate agent. I'm excited about getting into the market. There's no better place to be a real estate agent, 2008, 9, 10, and 11. How many of you guys would say
this isn't a trick question, guys. I know we're all realtors here.
Most people would say no, right? But it depends who you ask. So had you asked Michael Delgado, REO agent back then, was it a good time in 2008, 9, and 10? Michael would have said it was the best time to be a real estate agent. Had you asked Irma Arreguin with Century 21, was it a good time to be an agent? She would have said it was the best time because they had the right strategy. Right? So the people that were succeeding in 2004, 5, 6, 7, it reached the point that if they didn't change their strategy, they didn't do well, So in that time, if you look at the amount of foreclosures that there were at that time, you notice that the foreclosures started to happen. So if you wanted to succeed at that time, it was very likely that if you had a bank-owned account or an REO account, you were doing phenomenal. If you chase pre-foreclosures, you were doing phenomenal. At that time, almost every listing that was a standard sale on the marketplace was expiring. So if you chased that strategy, it was a good strategy. But what happened in 2012, 13, and 14? What happened to the people that had the REO accounts? They dried up. And what happened to a lot of them? Did a lot of them stay top producers? No, why? Because they didn't switch the right strategy at that time. So at that time, there was that same point that we're witnessing right now. It's like, okay, do we need to change our strategy? There was very few people. There's this agent called Stephanie Vitaco, and she was a big REO agent, and she stayed a big agent. But a lot of the REO agents, nothing. And what I heard from a lot of them is the REOs are gonna come back. They're going to come back. I've been talking to people and they're going to come back. And even now I hear them, they're coming back, because that's the only strategy that they know. They don't know any other strategy. So what we did, because we've adjusted, what we did is we started we started talking to people. So this is the way that real estate agents think. Most real estate agents think expireds. What else? Okay, and then what else? That's it.
You guys have essentially been brainwashed that those are the only sources of business.
That's all. That's it. So what I've done in my career is I've thought about okay, there's real estate investors out there wholesalers and flippers, right? And they're getting deals, and their target market is a motivated seller, right? Who's my target market? So what I started doing is I started attending these flipper conferences. I started attending these wholesaler conferences, and I said, hey, what are you guys doing to find motivated sellers? And that's where I started coming up with different lists. So I started coming up with different lists that were different than the traditional expires for sale by owners and expires. And I don't think there's a slide on here.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that comes up for me, so during that time too that you were explaining like the REO,
Yeah.
that was also the time where I started selling real estate. How many expireds were there in 2008, 9, 10? A lot. So I used that strategy. I did 100 deals one year and 75 were expired listings. There was like 350 a day. I couldn't even call them all. I'd set 3 appointments a day and cancel 2 because they didn't have equity and go on 1. That strategy murdered it at that time. But then 2010, 11, 12, marketplace gets better. What happens to expireds? They go away. And you know what I did? I'd love to tell you that I had this very like mature, oh, this is changing. I should probably change with it. That is not what happened. I had a temper tantrum for 90 days. Banging my head against the wall. I got to prospect more. I got to make more calls. I got to make more contacts, which is what most of you guys do, by the way. It's the only answer.
Even if you press the wrong button, it won't show you the right slide. So that's the wrong strategy right there. But this is what happened to pre-foreclosures. If you look at pre-foreclosures, they were up and then they started to go down.
That's right.
If you look at expired,
boom, look,
they were up.
So when you hear, when I say that I did 100 deals and 75 were expireds, your thinking goes, holy shit, because you apply it to now. You're not recognizing that there was 350 of them a day. Look this is when I was doing this. So yeah, was that a dope strategy then? Yes. 100%. But then as this happened, was that still a dope strategy? No. So what I did after 90 days of smashing my head against the wall, I got really pissed off. And I don't know about you guys. Have you ever guys been in a situation personally or professionally where you're like, look, this is unfucking acceptable to me. I will not do less. I don't know what the way is, but I'm going to find the way or make the fucking way. Anybody besides me have that experience? Say yes. Yes. I'm sorry. Anybody besides me have that experience? Yes. Yeah, so that's what I did. And what I got into a mastermind group. There was a dude who was talking about probates. I didn't know shit about that. Like literally nothing. But most of you guys don't want to put yourself in environments where you don't know anything because your ego's too high. You're not willing to put yourself into a situation where you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't even know that you don't know. But I got in this mastermind group and I was like, oh shit, where do you get the leads? How do you get the phone? Like, what's this process? I figured it out. Within 5 months, I stopped selling. I stopped calling expireds altogether, and probates became 50% of my business. I changed my strategy.
Now, this is market specific as well too, because even if we look at Ventura County, the amount of probates that we have relative to Heaven's Waiting Room.
I live in Heaven's Waiting Room, guys.
It's a completely different number as well too, right? So you guys can take a picture of this if you guys want. These are the different lists that I'm using here in Ventura County to find business.
And I want you guys to grasp, like, just how many. You guys call 3 sources at the most. And you're like, why can't I just do it? Look at what he's doing. Look how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 lists. Is it magic that he's going to do 1.8 this year? No. He's dealing with reality. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So I'll go over a couple of the lists. The lists on the left are the ones that real estate agents use. Probates, divorce, tax liens. What if I told you that all of these lists are public data? Like meaning like, can you find out if somebody's delinquent on their taxes? Yes. Do you think that that person might be going through financial hardships? Yes. Do you think that person, because they don't want to lose their home to a tax lien, is maybe thinking about selling their property? Yes. Do you think it might be a good time to have a conversation with them? Yes. Yeah, right? Trust. Bankruptcy. Do you think somebody who's going through a bankruptcy is potentially somebody in financial hardship? Do you think somebody who has a code violation is somebody that is going through a financial hardship? Do you think somebody who's going through an eviction process maybe is tired of dealing with tenants and might say, forget this, I don't want to re-rent my property ever again? Do you think that maybe somebody who's renting their property by owner might say, I don't know if I want to rent out the property anymore, or all the applicants that I'm getting, maybe they're not the type of applicants that I want to rent out the property to? What about people who have adjustable rates? Hey, they had an adjustable rate in 2004, 5, 6, 7. All of a sudden, that adjustable rate is going to go up or is scheduled to click. And by the time they try to refinance, they're going to go from a 4% to a 7%. What about people with home equity lines of credit? Do you think that maybe they were paying 2% at some point when they got the equity line of credit? All of a sudden, they're at 8%. Do you think maybe that messes up their budgets? Do you think that's a good time to maybe reach out to them? What about people that are building accessory dwelling units here in Ventura County? Do you think that there's some investors building accessory dwelling units to rehab them and sell them? What about people that are having garage sales? Have you guys ever thought about like, hey, they're having a garage sale. They might be clearing up. They might be thinking about selling. All of these lists, people that are in foreclosure, affidavit of death, obituaries. What about people that have reverse mortgages? What if I told you that all of these lists are public data? And that if you do a little bit of homework, that you can actually find these lists, then you can find phone numbers for them, and then have conversations with these people. Right? So some of you guys look on the MLS, they're like, man, listing taken, listing taken, listing taken, listing taken, and it's not magic. I just said, okay, if the only people that are selling are people that need to sell, because they don't want to give up their 7% rate, these are the people that need to sell.
Have to.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That right there, guys, is like $1 million worth of game. Okay? Because what I'm aware of is you guys go to conferences, they give you all this topographical stuff, mindset, all this stuff. Is this not tactical information? Yes. Is this not practical? Is this not guns and bullets? Yes. Do you see what I'm saying? That's the difference. So now you can no longer say that you don't know. But those who don't know, those who don't read are no different than those who can't. Now you can't use it as an excuse. Now it requires action, does it not? And I was talking, somebody came up to me, you guys are really awesome, and you're like, hey bro, like I see you online, and social and stuff, and do you have any advice for me? And I say, listen, everything that me and Jose are doing is not unique. Prospect, lead, follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate deals. Is that unique? That's been around since sales has been around forever. Okay? Finding lists and calling people.
Is that unique?
Is that unique? No. Most businesses are copycats, guys. We didn't invent some cool technology or some shit that nobody has. It's not unique. What's unique?
The execution.
The execution is unique. Do you see? But the execution has to do with who? Oh, but I don't like that, Edwin. I want to blame it on something else. It's the economy, it's those fucking politicians. It's the tax rates. It's my bullshit sellers. It's these bullshit buyers that don't want to write overpriced offers. You see, it's execution, guys. That's what's unique. So now the question you have to ask yourself and write it down, what am I going to do with this information? Is this something that's cool where you're like, wow, that's pretty dope, and then you go home and do nothing? That's a waste of time. You might as well stay at home. You understand? You don't get more because you want more. Do you know why you get more? Because you become more. Opportunities flow to people that are reliable. Ask yourself a question. Are you reliable? Do you reliably execute on information? Or do you just get a fake dopamine hit because you learned something and you tell people your goals and it feels good and then you don't do anything? Right? Man, those eyebrows, god damn. You ever been around people that love to broadcast their goals? Oh, I'm gonna do this. You know what's happening? They're getting a dopamine hit and their brain's confused as though they already did it. And then they don't end up doing anything. So use the information, please. We want you to be as successful as you possibly can be. Who plans on using this information? Say aye. Aye. High energy equals high? Income. Let's try that again. Who plans on using this information? Aye. Good. So now that we're clear on where to get the leads from, okay, now the question is, Once you have a lead, because we know that there's 1.6 million agents chasing 4 million deals. We have 600,000 more agents than there were the last time we had 4.2 million deals. So that means we're going to be in competitive situations more often. Anybody notice on listings you're competing all the time? Yep. And guess what? If you don't have skills, what happens? You get your ass kicked. That's exactly what happens. And real estate is like the thing where it's like, is there any prize for second place? Nope. How many people have you get so chapped? They're like, well, you gave a great presentation, Peter. We really appreciate you coming out. We decided to go with John. Does that chap anybody else's ass but mine? I fucking hate that. I hate losing more than I like winning. Okay? So what would I need to do to deal with the fact that I'm going to be competing more often? What's up, honey? What am I going to need to do? What would be something to deal with that? Sharpen your skills. So look, this only works if we're honest with each other, okay? We're all friends here, right? Skills. How many people here, no bullshit, okay, legitimately practice every single day, 5 to 6 days a week? The rest of you are independently wealthy. Is that what's happening? Like, let me ask you a real question, okay? If you were in a real job with a real business, imagine you went to like the CEO of your company and you were like, hey, I never practiced for this job. And when I go in, I just wing it. And then I say to them, oh my God, you have a puppy? I have a puppy. We should be boys and friends. You should list with me because of that. What will the CEO say? That's horseshit. There's the door. There's the door. Get out of here. Why do we do that? You realize these conversations are worth $10, $15, $20, $30,000? With your current level of education, what else could you be doing where you could earn that amount of money in 30 days? I can tell you, nothing. 92% of people in the United States make less than $120,000 a year. 92%. If you're standing at Starbucks, 9 out of 10, that's their situation. You know you can make $1 million a year doing this, and it's legal? Hey guys, just so you know, it's legal to sell. There's no restraints. You can sell as much as you want. You want to sell 10 homes, you want to sell 20, you want to sell 30. Jose, what's the most amount of money you've made in 1 month?
I think like 300 and some thousand.
What the fuck? How many people just passed out internally? For me, it's 217,000. It's legal. But I have to get what? Skilled. You know in my marketplace, there's 20 million agents in the multiple listing service. There's only 100 that do more than 20 million in volume. There's 20,000 agents. There's only 100 of them that do more than 20 million in volume. If you had 20,000 people chasing 100 jobs, what would your schedule be like? How much would you practice? A lot. So you got to get serious about this, guys. If we're going to be dealing with this for the next 18 months, when times get tough, only the skilled get paid. Write that down. When times get tough, only the skilled get paid. If you're operating under the delusion that people are going to hire you because you're cute and you post on Instagram, 2 things for you. 1, you're not that cute. Promise. 2 is that's also a weight loss program. Okay? So what do we say when we're on the appointment? Okay? When we're actually in the door. And me and Jose are going to go over that. Now, we did a YouTube video where we walk through, and that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Is we're going to walk through the actual presentation tactically from the time you hit the door to the time you sit down and talk about price to handling objections and closing, and we can do live role play. Who's up for that?
Yes, sir.
Would this be helpful?
Yes.
Is this better than those boring ass meetings you normally go to? Yes. 100%. Okay?
All right, so let's start off. You pull up to in the car, right? You walk up to the door, knock on the door. They say, welcome in, nice to meet you.
Yeah. Number 1, remember to smile, guys. I remember when I'd be like, I'm here to list your house. Like, smile. Hi, my name is Aaron. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. Hey, did you want me to take my shoes off?
Good.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. So, right? And I asked, do you want me to take my shoes off? Why? Because it's respectful of whose space? Theirs. Right? And let's say he's like, no, you're good. I'm like, great. So what I'd like to do now is just take a quick look around the home. Would that be okay? He's like, yeah, that's awesome. Now, as I start to walk through, I start to assumptively close. Okay? I start to say things like, hey, I'm noticing that the home is really tastefully furnished. So when we have offers come in, are we going to be including the contents, or do you want to take that with you to your next destination? When who has offers come in? We. And when they answer that question, I heard you, oh. When they answer that question, what happens mentally? We're moving things forward. Does that make sense? Like, no, we plan on taking that with us. Okay, awesome. And then as I continue to walk through, yeah, and if I remember correctly, right, based on our conversation in preparation for us meeting, you mentioned that you don't plan on doing anything else, as far as major modifications or changes before I start to bring buyers through. You just want me to help you to sell it as it is where it is. What did I just do again? How many closes do you need before somebody says yes?
9.
Somewhere between 7 and 9. So if you're going in and being like, oh my God, you have a puppy, I have a puppy, yay, and you do all that shit, and the only time you close at the end, what happens? You get escorted off the property. Thanks, we're going to think it over. And you're like, okay, think it over, see you later, bye. And then I come in and they get the contract signed. Boom. Right? Go ahead.
But even you have to remember that the presentation already started before you even get to the door. All of the conversations, everything that you're saying to them before you get to the presentation, they're making mental notes of all that. Even when you pull up to the door, your dress attire is important.
Yes.
The way that you're manicured, groomed, all of that is important. I remember showing up to a listing appointment. She goes, guess what? You're the first guy that wears a suit. I'm listing my house.
Yep.
Very first thing that she says.
Yeah. I was on an appointment and the guy said, hey, I really appreciate your professionalism. I said, what do you mean? He's like, the last agent came here in yoga pants.
It happens. I don't know why, but it does.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's immaturity.
Yeah. But even like, we call it the total.
No, the TFP. Who's part of the tribe and knows what the TFP is? What's the TFP?
Total fucking package.
That's right, baby. Everywhere you look, you're going to bump into excellence. You hear me on the phone, you're like, wow, that guy sounds different. You get the pre-list package, you're like, wow, that looks different. I send you a bomb video before I see you. Nobody else does that. I show up dressed fresh like $1 million. Wow. Then what comes out of my mouth is, wow, everywhere you look, you bump into excellence.
Not even that. If you're thinking that your sellers aren't researching you up before you get to the presentation and you have 1 5-star review on it and you're competing against somebody like me that has 150 5-star reviews, they're going to look at that information before you even show up.
100%. Or if you're posting on Instagram of you in your bikini partying, you don't think they're looking at that?
That's part of the
Or your
TFP.
fucking political comments? I'm like, why are you guys doing that, bro? Are you like forcing people to be like, I don't like you? Do you understand?
The other thing you have to realize is, have you guys ever showed up to a listing appointment and before you even knock on the door, they open the door already? Mm-hmm. They're waiting for you.
Yeah.
So even from the time that you get out of your car, in some cases, they're watching you already.
That's right.
So even when I get out of my car, I have my folder and I'm looking around the house. Do I really need to look around the house? No, but I know they're looking at me, so I'm like.
He's like, yo, get a good look, bro. Get a good look.
I'm like looking around the house. I'm like making mental notes in case they ask me something of it. Knock on the door, take a couple step backs. Need me to take off my shoes? Or even in some cases, be aware of this. Like certain cultures always take off their shoes when they walk in. And to be nice to you, they may say, no need to take off your shoes. But let's say you're competing. There's 4 agents. All of them say, oh, no need to take them off. Okay, thank you. I go in there. I'm like, you said no need to take them off? I know the culture. I see all the shoes on the left-hand side. I'm going to take them off.
Like 15 shoes on the left-hand side?
And guess what? They're going to be like, oh, this guy's respectful. Yeah. They're going to think like, when this guy shows my property, he's going to be respectful of my environment. That's part of the presentation as
100%.
well, too.
Yeah, that's dope. So now we've kind of walked through, and by the way, when I said initially right out of the gate where I'm like, hey, I'd like to take a quick look around the property, is that okay? What am I doing immediately? Taking control. Because somebody needs to be in control. And if it's them, you're going to end up on a couch with a puppy in your lap, fucking scrunched up, and you're like, how did I get here? What just happened? Right? Anybody besides me have had that happen? Yeah. You're sitting there, you're like, how did this take place? Okay? So somebody needs to be in control. See, the only thing that's funny too is people who go on listing appointments. Right? Everybody else is like, what is he talking about? So somebody needs to take control, and then I'm guiding them through the process, right? Now after I've assumptively closed twice, now it's time to sit down. So it's like, okay, great. So what I'd like to do is, I guess we could go ahead and sit here at the kitchen table. Notice who's directing that. Because if you ask them, where would you like to sit, what's going to happen?
You're going to end up on couch.
On the couch, scrunched up, it'll be weird. The people will be like way over there, and you'll be way over here, right? So I want to take control of that situation.
Now, if it makes you uncomfortable to take control of that situation, I bring an iPad and they say, hey, like, let's sit down on the couch. I'm like, well, I actually brought an iPad. I'm gonna be sharing some information with you. It would actually be better if we sit down at the kitchen table, because that made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You guys gotta remember that when I went on my first 100 presentations, I only took about 5 of them.
Wow.
Now I'm taking like 85, 90% of the presentations that I go on. But when I went on, because these things made me uncomfortable. Like,
And I remember you would come to me and be like, bro, what do you say when like,
yeah,
you know,
what do you say? Because I needed to find a way to get him to the kitchen table, but at the same time feel comfortable with myself and not like a way where it was too pushy.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, hey, like I brought some information with you. It's gonna require, it'll actually be better if we have a place to place all this information, and it'll be better if I'm able to place it at a table. It's actually better if we sit at the kitchen table. Do you guys mind if we sit at the kitchen table?
Perfect.
Boom, we just got him to the kitchen.
And he's
table.
directing it.
Yeah.
He's in control.
Now, the other thing is, and I know that he talks about puppies on your laps and stuff like that. Puppies are members of people's
family.
families
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sometimes. You have a puppy now
I
as well
do,
too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's the transformative power of love. So I tell my daughter over and over again no, but she's actually has my genetic makeup and code, so she closed me for 6 months. And then you know what she said to me? She's like, hey, we could just go to the store. We don't have to buy anything. Fucking gangster. Then I'm at the store, and she's holding it and looks up at me like, Daddy? I look at my wife, I'm like, she's like, I'm not helping you. So I'm like, shit, we're buying a dog. So we did. But I, like to his point, I'm playful that way because you guys try to use personality to sell. Your personality's not that great. Like, it's just not. So that's why I'm exaggerating it to his point. And yeah, you could acknowledge the puppy like he's saying.
Be polite to
Yeah,
the
be polite,
puppy.
maybe pet him. But
Yeah.
don't use that as the main mechanism to try to get business, is my point.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's dope. So now we're at the table, and the other thing is how I want to sit. Because if I'm sitting across from someone, that's adversarial. And there's something visually between me and you, this table. It's a barrier between us, right? Psychologically. So I want to sit at a table where I am the head of the table, and if there's 2 decision makers, they're standing next to me, because who's the focal point? Me. And I can direct my attention to both of them. Versus if I'm sitting here and the husband and wife over here, it's like we're against each other. Does that make sense? Yep. So I will intentionally and purposefully, when I go and they're like, yeah, you could sit here, I take that chair, right? Versus being on the other side. Make sense? Yeah. So these little teeny tweaks that dramatically increase the probability that we'll have a connection is what makes the difference between getting contract signed and not.
Now, in some cases, if they're sitting on the same side, it's actually easier to present.
Sometimes.
Way, because you have an iPad. If you have an iPad and you're showing them the pictures,
but
it's
I would,
actually
yeah,
easier.
and in that instance, I would
it
still
eliminates the
exactly
going back and forth.
Yeah, and if they sat here, I would still be here, so I could be like this. Because you don't want, the way most of you guys present is like, I know and you don't. I'm smart and you're stupid. Like, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you'll list with me at a price that'll cause it to sell. You know when that worked, guys? When there was no fucking internet. You realize that, right? Okay? But you're still doing it. Because you realize that they check their shit more than you do. The majority of homeowners, the majority of Americans have almost all of their net worth tied up into their house. They're hitting the refresh button on Zillow and Redfin every fucking day. And you're like, I know more than you do.
They know the comps.
They know it better than you.
Sometimes.
You go in there and you're like, did you know about Sally's home that sold? And you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know about that.
They're like, oh yeah, we partied there at that house before.
Do you understand?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly where they're at. And I'm like, oh damn, they actually know the floor plan better than I do.
So you want to be collaborative. And even in what you were saying, that's what came up for me. Like if I'm showing you stuff, this isn't like I know and you don't. This is like, hey, we're going to look at this information together as a team. And what we're going to see come to the surface is not a pinpoint to the penny, but instead a tight, realistic range as to what's reasonable. And then from there, it'll come down to strategy, and we'll go over the strategies together because I want you to feel comfortable with the one we end up choosing. And whatever you decide to do, I'm going to support you 100%. Now, I'm wondering, if you're on the receiving end there and you have somebody who's like, this is what it is, and then you have my approach, who are you probably going to go with? Why? Because you feel like you're in? Do you understand? This is some Jedi shit, bro.
Not only that, but as you're presenting price, it's more of a discovery process of getting them to realize what the price is versus you telling them what the price is. Because what happens if you tell them a price that they don't like?
Yeah, because they tie you to the price.
They tune everything out of that. If you ever say a price and don't believe me, walk on a listing presentation, tell them a price that they don't like, just watch their body language. They're going to tune you out.
Yeah, and watch it
completely.
get shut down real fast.
Now, as it relates to helping them realize what the actual price of it is, I walk into listing presentations. I see other agents, in some cases even other EXP agents, and I see that they print out a one-line CMA with like 20 different comps. And they say, well, the average of all of the properties is 345, therefore you should list your property at 345.
How many people do that? No bullshit. Nobody wants to admit it, but I know a lot of you do. So that essentially is doing what Jose just told you not to do. You're telling them versus discovery. Go ahead and show them.
Versus discovering. So what we do is we have the iPad, and this is also something that a lot of the EXP agents that we work with, they fight us on. So this was my experience before, and Aaron was the one that kind of introduced me to the iPad. And for a long time I said, nope, I don't need an iPad. I'm used to presenting with paper.
You know what I said to him? I'm like, bro, do you go to the fucking appointments on a horse? Like, are you using an abacus to do the net sheet? Like, what are you doing?
So as it relates to the preparation of the appointment, I used to have to print out a marketing package every single time. I used to have to print out the comps. I used to have to print out additional things that maybe they're like, oh, I want a list of homes for this, or you're competing against such and such person, so I would print out their track records. But it was a process of having to prepare. And what would happen is, I don't know if I had the wrong printer, but sometimes our printer would act up. And I'm like, damn, I gotta get on the road. I gotta get to the house. So I'm like rushing, I'm feeling like emotionally like tense. I'm gonna be late, tense. Imagine showing up like that to a presentation. So what I did instead is I created a folder on Dropbox that just says presentation. And in this folder, I have samples of different things. So if they're telling me, hey, I wanna remodel my bathroom. Hey, how about we just reglaze it? Do you know what reglazing is? Look, that's before, that's after. So I have samples of every situation that I'm ever going to experience. So I have a folder just called presentation. And these are things that as I continue to go on more presentations, if I experience something that is new, I put it in the Dropbox folder one time. It's there for the rest of my career at any given time. I don't have to prepare for the listing appointment. So, and this is a competitive advantage. Has anybody ever received a phone call and said, hey, I'm actually only in town for the next hour. Can you come over and list my property? And you're like, oh, I gotta print out the package. I gotta do the comps. I gotta do this. I gotta prepare my presentation. If you have everything ready to go, all you gotta do is upload the comps, have somebody else upload the comps, get on the road. It's a competitive advantage, guys.
Yeah, so what it makes me think about is that thousandaires think in time. How much time is this gonna take me? Millionaires think in systems. I told him, if you wanna list 100 homes a year, you can't keep doing what you're doing.
It would take too much time to prepare for every single presentation.
Right?
And people are like, well, I don't need it because I only go on 4 or 5, but my goal is to do 30. The only way you're gonna get there is by changing some of the things that you're doing now, because if you don't change them, you're gonna continue doing the same thing.
And then you'll think something's wrong with you and you think you need to practice your scripts more and everything, but the real reason is you don't have any systems in order to be efficient.
And then this is a folder that you're continually improving. Look, I have samples of the best properties that I've staged on here. And this is just kind of like a little bit of background. Look, I go over this example right here. I'm like, look, this property was listed with another real estate agent right here. This is what it looked like with the other real estate agent. It didn't sell. Look, that's what it looked like with the other real estate agent. That's what it looked like with the other real estate agent. That's what it looked like with us. Right there. Look, same property. And then I'll ask them, like, which property do you like better?
Which do you think has a higher degree of probability of selling? Are you beginning to realize why people like you hire me all the time for the job? May I make a suggestion? Let's do this.
Right. And they'll be like, well, I like yours better. Why? Well, because it looks better. Great. This is the difference between me and the agent that's charging you 4% right here. This is the difference right here. You know?
And they could say like, wow, that looks really different. Well, it sounds like you're beginning to see why people not only hire me, but they see the value in what we do and they're willing to pay us more.
Even right here, if they're like, well, another agent said that they can get us multiple offers or whatever, look, let me show you a quick example. This is a property that I listed at $1,050,000. Look at all the offers that we received. It's right here all on the iPad, ready to go. So you're telling them, oh yeah, I sold properties $20,000 above the asking price. I can actually show them during my presentation, be like, look, this is a property, we had 34 offers on this property, or 34 offers on this property. Look, we countered back highest and best. What do you think the property sold for? Well, I think it sold at $1,200,000. We actually sold it at $1,270,000. You think if you show them these type of things, they might be like, well, such and such person's good, but
That's right.
this guy showed me what he
Yeah,
did. you
and
know?
at the end of that, it just popped into my head. It's like, well, I'm curious. Would you like to receive that amount of offers and sell for that amount more? Yeah, well, it sounds like you found what you're looking for. May I make a suggestion? Let's do this.
Even here, so this is how we process our checklist. So if somebody's like, well, I want to make sure that somebody is going to be on top of things, and you may be too busy for me because you do all these deals. Well, great. You want to see how we manage all of our transactions? Look, this is how detailed we are in our process right here. Look, when you sign the contract today, we're going to go over some questions right here, and these questions are designed to make sure that we don't miss anything throughout the transaction. Look, we ask you if you have solar panels. We ask you if you have a Ring camera. Why do you think we ask if you have a Ring camera? The reason we ask is because we had a seller take the Ring camera and leave the two little wires hanging. So what I've done is I've actually created a process where anytime we've ever experienced a problem, we've addressed that problem, we fixed it, so you don't have to go through that same problem. So if you look at this, these are all the questions I'm going to ask you. And then you look at our process, these are all the things that we do. If you see right here, coming soon, these are all the things that we do before it even comes on the property. It sounds simple, Jason, and it sounds like every agent is going to do this, but look, we put email you a copy of the contract.
Yeah.
Right when you sign the contract.
And what just popped into my head is, say, I'm wondering, with those other agents that you interviewed, did they show you their process? Or did they just kind of want you to believe them that they had one?
Or if I'm interviewing, there's somebody after me, look, can I make a recommendation? Look, you see all of this right here. You see how detailed our processes are? Do me a favor, ask the next agent to show you their process of step by step what they're gonna do after you sign the contract with them.
Watch that agent get really flustered.
They're gonna ask him and they're gonna be like, they're not gonna know how to react. But the cool thing is that if you have the iPad, and I have an affiliate link for the iPad. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. All right, if you had the iPad, you're able to have all your presentation on here without having to reinvent the wheel every single time. So that's one of the folders. The other folder that I have is just per property. So I have a presentation folder that we're constantly updating, and then we have a properties folder where these are all the listing appointments I've ever gone on, right there. And in that listing folder, we include agent comps, we include tax records. Look, in that one, it looks like I was competing against Powell, somebody with the last name of Powell. So I included their track record on there.
Boom.
I have my track record on there, and then I have the comps right there.
I'm curious, is he playing to win?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Are you guys playing to win?
Yes. Yes.
Did you did you see the energy drop?
Now, I like, whenever I'm going over the comps, I like the private MLS agent remarks with photos on the comps because it tells me all the details. It tells me if the agent double-ended it, which I know if they double-ended it, maybe they could have got a little bit more for the client. It tells me how long they were on the market. It tells me what the original list price is, what versus what they actually sold for. So as I'm presenting the comps, I'll be like, look, this client actually chose a strategy where they started a little bit lower. So if you notice, they chose a strategy where they started off at 500 and they got a bidding war and it went to 525.
I'm curious.
So what am I preparing them for?
Yes,
to start off a little bit.
And as he's saying that, you could say to them, I'm wondering, with that particular strategy, would you like to be in an environment in which you got multiple offers and potentially sell for above the asking price? Is that something that you're interested in? And they say yes, what happens? I've just planted that seed that they want to go in that direction.
Now, I cover a large area. I sell properties in Ojai, I sell properties in Burbank. It's impossible for me to know every area in the school district like the back of my hand. And at the beginning, I would freak out thinking like I needed to know the school district, I needed to know the cross streets, and I would spend all this time preparing. What I did instead is in this report, it has a map. So they'll ask me, oh, where is that property located? I'll be like, let me show you. And then I'll pull up the map, and then I'll zoom in, and they'll be like, oh, that's right by the Smith's house. I'm like, yeah, that's right by the Smith's house.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I have no idea where the Smith's house is at, and I'm showing them the map.
I don't even know where the street is.
And that's the only way I'm able to cover a large area without freaking out about knowing the school system, about knowing the school district or whatever it is, or the cross streets. Anytime they ask me, where's that one located? Look, here's where it's at. Oh, that's over there. Yeah, that's exactly where it's at. Right? So it eliminated the boundary of, oh, I only sell in Oxnard, or I only sell in Camarillo, I only sell in Thousand Oaks or Newbury Park. I sell Southern California. because it opens up the market, which gives me more opportunities, which gives me more chances. Like if you look at all the listings, we have Burbank, Santa Clarita right now. We have Camarillo, Oxnard, like everywhere.
Which is also a strategy when the amount of transaction drops, it would make sense for me to dramatically expand my geographic area, right? Because there's less opportunities in one specific area.
And you could have all of this available on your iPad, meaning you're ready to go every single time at the drop of a button. You only got to prepare it one time. You put it in a Dropbox folder. Not only that, but think about this. Okay, me and Aaron are competing on a listing presentation,
I wouldn't
right?
want that for you, but yeah.
No, that's kind of how I feel about it as well too. So it's kind of like, he shows up with paper,
Yeah.
because he's a paper type of guy,
Yeah.
you know, and I show up with an iPad. What message does that give to the consumer? Right there. I'm tech savvy. Do people want somebody in today's environment that is tech savvy?
Yes.
Am I already a little bit ahead of Aaron right there with me showing up with an iPad versus him showing up with a pen and paper?
100%.
100%. So you're even sending a message right there to the client, basically telling them like, hey, I'm tech savvy. I've won listing presentations against people that have better track records for me in certain neighborhoods because I appear to be more tech savvy.
That's right.
And I use that heavily, especially if I'm selling in Ventura and there's these $2-3 million agents that have the most ridiculous track record in that area. How am I able to win? You got to find that little competitive advantage.
And all those
that you
things
have,
add
you know?
up. So he shows up in a suit. He shows up 15 minutes early. He takes his shoes off. Plus he's tech savvy. You see, like they all add up towards a win, right?
Not only that, but even for example, and then it comes down to selling based on what the problem is. So if somebody says, well, I've got a tenant occupied property and I don't want the tenants disturbed, pull out the iPad. I'm like, great, I've got just the solution for you. Have you ever heard of a Matterport camera? They go, what? Well, have you ever gone on Google Maps and you take a street view tour of an entire neighborhood? Yes, I have. Well, this is the same thing, but it's for real estate. What if I told you that we can make it so that there's 0 showings for your tenants, make all of the showings available via the Matterport tour, and then if somebody writes us an offer or is genuinely interested after they see it, then at that time, we can allow them to see the property. If that's their problem right there, where they don't want the tenant disturbed, do you think that's a good solution right there?
Yeah, and which is more powerful, if you told that to him or showed it to him?
Showed it to them, 100%. But all of this is on here. So what I've done in my presentation is I've kind of thought about all the different objections that I get, and then I've created an iPad presentation where I can solve all those different objections. Like, so for example, one of the objections that I used to get was, well, how are you gonna market to beach buyers? Have you guys ever received that objection? Or I have a horse property. How am I going to market to people that have horses? What if I told you I have a solution for that? We have in our plan of action, we have that objection handled basically. So we have a plan of action, which is free to all of our EXP agents by partnering with us.
Let's go.
Not a sales pitch, but
Yes,
by the way, all of this is available to everybody who's our EXP partner. They have all of this available for them. For free, every single one of them. Not an EXP pitch, but it is the best company in the world.
Yes.
All right, so what I was gonna show you guys is the presentation. This is a copy of my marketing plan of action right here. And all of our partners get this for free right here. So this is a copy of the marketing plan of action. This is step by step what I do, and I have a certain way of presenting it, and it has a bunch of before and a bunch of after. So if they tell me, like, hey, I want you to market my property to horse buyers. Well, look, I do the social media pitch. Hey, what if I told you that I create an ad that you can target people based on demographics, behavior, and interest? What if I told you that Facebook actually has people, 60 million people that have expressed interest in horseback riding? What if I told you that Facebook actually has people that work at Amgen? How many of you guys have ever tried to take a listing in Newbury Park and they go, well, I want somebody that knows how to target buyers that work in Amgen? I got it covered, right? So the presentation, if you have everything in your iPad, it's designed to be able to handle almost every single objection that you can handle because the stakes are big, guys. We're not competing for $5 here. We're not competing for $10. We're competing for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 at a time. And guess what? Second place does not get paid.
No.
It's not like a little trophy, nothing. First place gets the $30,000, second place gets nothing. So them telling you you're my second favorite is horseshit. Try taking that to the bank.
Yeah.
Try taking that to buy groceries. Well,
Yeah.
I was second place at this listing presentation. It's not going to work.
Hey, and here are my leads. Will you take my leads as payment? No, that's not going to work, right? So that's beautiful because all of that is in the, like you have it on an iPad for yourself that you can run through. So what I'd like to do now is just continue down some of that tactical information and then we'll open it up for questions, comments, concerns. So once I'm sitting at the table, now, and what I say to them is like, first and foremost, I just want to say thank you with a smile and mean it, right? For providing me the opportunity to share some information with you and potentially help you with the sale. I always like to begin these conversations by asking a couple quick questions. Would that be okay? Answer back. I'm sorry, high energy equals? High income. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, my first question, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to based on what you shared with me before we connected, is that you guys have definitely decided that you're going to sell this home. Is that correct? Yeah, you're not interested in holding on to it or doing something else with it. Now, I should know this already. If you're going on appointments and finding it out there, that is not the best strategy. Yeah, he's like, oh shit, I've done that. Don't do that. Okay? But when you go to the doctor, they run a bunch of what? Tests. If you went in and you're like, my head hurts, and they're like, let's do surgery, would you be cool with that?
No.
No. But somebody's like, hey, I want to sell my house. You're like, I'll be there at 10. It's the same thing. I need to ask a series of questions to find out what the dynamic is. Me and Tim have worked on this a lot. His tendency in the past, he's an awesome $1 million plus producer. I coach him one-on-one. He used to just run out. He no longer does that. He asks a series of detailed questions because his time's very valuable. So I should know that before I go. The second is, and I'm also pretty sure I know the answer, is you want to position this property price-wise to sell. You don't want to give it away, right? What's also true is you don't want to have it sit on the market for like 6 or 7 months just testing the market. Is that correct? Now, when I say you don't want to give it away, what do they immediately do? You're right. So we just did what? Yes, we're in alignment. I'm on your team. You definitely don't want to give it away. You're like, you're goddamn right, don't want to give it away. Right? Okay, great. And then that leads me to my third question, which I'm also pretty sure I know the answer to. You know, I'm aware I sent you over some information in preparation for connecting. I'm sure you've checked me out online. You saw some of our track record and reviews. Have you already decided that you would like for me and my team to help you with the sale? Notice, what am I doing with my head? What did you start to do? Yeah, even though you're across the room, she started to be like, yeah, I fucking did, yeah. Right? And now they're either going to say yes, no, or maybe. Now some people are like, oh my God, you asked that right away? Get it out of the way, bro. How many closes do you need? 7 or 8. So if they say yes, you internally do the happy dance, and you start to talk about price. If they say no or maybe, then what do I say? Great. Well, I know this is a big decision and you want to make sure you're making the best decision possible. I want to be clear though, that is my intention. So provided that what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident with me, myself and team and staff, we're all standing at the ready to go to work, and I have all of the appropriate paperwork with me to get started today. How many closes is that? 2, but remember I did 2 through the walkthrough, so that's actually 4. Have we talked about price? No. Have we talked about commission? No. Have we talked about my fucking buyers in Venezuela? Which is horseshit, because you don't have any. We haven't talked about anything yet, right? And along those lines, I mean, you shared with me before we connected, you were looking for, you know, somebody's got a great track record, somebody who can help you get top dollar, somebody who could connect you with, you know, some vendors. In terms of the move. Is there anything else you'd be looking for from me today that would cause you to feel comfortable and confident to proceed and put me to work? How many? 5. Have we talked about anything yet? No. Now, what are they going to say to me when I say that? Well, we want to talk to you about your commission, goddammit. Or we want to talk about the length of the agreement. Or we want to hear what you have to do to market the property. Awesome. I've made notes on all of that. And I'll be sure we have a conversation. I want to be clear with regards to the professional fee. That definitely won't be a reason why we don't do business. I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties, right? I want us to do things that are win-win, and I want us both to feel good about what we're doing. Otherwise, we won't do it. Fair enough? What did I just do? Take the power back, right? I kept my status high. You guys lower your status all the time. Oh, please, 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 please. Oh, I could be there at 3. I could be there at 5. I could be there at 6. Right? They have a higher status than you. I'm taking the status back. Okay? So it sounds as though, provided that I can answer all those questions, which I feel comfortable I can, and you feel comfortable, confident, we can proceed and get started. I'm really excited to have that opportunity. How many closes? 6. Have we talked about anything yet? No. Do you see what's happening here? Okay. So the great news is at the culmination of our time together, there are a few potential outcomes. The first, which we really seem to be moving in that direction. How many closes? 7. Is that you may decide to list your home with me. And I'm super excited to have that opportunity and ready to go to work right now. The second potential outcome is there's an outside chance for whatever reason, you may decide not to list your home with me, which is an embedded command, right? Because your subconscious mind hears what? List your home with me. Hey, you don't sell 2,000 homes by accident, okay? And then there's a third potential outcome, and this one's just as important as the others, guys, is if for any reason at all, if I honestly felt that I would not be able to help you get what you wanted in the time that you wanted, I may decide to very humbly decline the opportunity to list your home. The reason I would do that is I'd much rather earn your business with integrity, being honest and straightforward about what's reasonable, realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen and not be able to deliver. Any one of those three I feel completely comfortable with. Where's my status? You guys are like, oh, please, 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 please pick me. I may decide like, you know, I'd humbly, and I always do this with my hands, because a lot of you guys have been trained to say, I may decide not to take your listing, which is like rude. But instead, I may decide to humbly decline the opportunity to list your property. And here's the reason why. Which, by the way, is a takeaway close. So I've closed 8 times. We haven't talked about anything. Do you see? If you're waiting to close to the end and you have 1, now you have 8 to get through, which that's painful. Anybody besides me ever tried to do that? Yep. Super painful. Gets really awkward. It's uncomfortable. But if you're doing this, is this like, am I hard closing you? No, it's very soft, very like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Somebody called me the Velvet Hammer one time. They're like, bro, you're really nice and kind, but you're fucking closing all the time. ABC, always be? Closing. That's right, always be closing. So what I'd like to do is go over some of those questions I asked you over the phone just to make sure that I fully understand, you know, what you guys are looking to accomplish and why, so I could do a great job for you. Would that be okay? They say, sure. So you shared with me that the main reason you're selling your home is you're looking to move to Texas. Is that right? Yes. You shared with me you only owe $150,000 on the property. You're not interested in acting like a bank and holding a note for a new buyer. You just want for me to help you to get all the cash out. What did I just do again? That's 9. Okay. And you weren't planning on making any changes or modifications before I start to bring buyers through. We're doing it again. And then in terms of showings, just so I'm clear, is somebody home usually? Well, yeah, and did you want it to be like by appointment only or like a courtesy? And who should we contact for that? Well, you should contact Susie. Great, Susie, what's the best cell phone number for you? What did I just do? They're giving me what? Information. What's the best email address for you? And we can set it up to where every time the property's shown, you get an email. Would you like that? Yeah. Boom. You see how we're just constantly moving the process forward. Once they give me that email and that phone number, there's a high degree of probability they're going to hire me, right? Because they're mentally committing. So, and they're like, yeah. It's like, okay, great. Well, I'm crystal clear on the dynamic and what you're looking to accomplish and why, and I feel supremely confident that we can help you. So the great news is we only have to focus on 2 things today during our time together. The first is your motivation to sell, which is clear. You're definitely going to do it. The second issue is the price. Now notice, did I say the second issue is the marketing? Did I say the second issue is my buyers in Venezuela? Did the second issue I said is because I'm going to put your needs first, which is dumb, by the way. Everybody does that, right? If you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. So
now, this is where I actually start the listing presentation. So I do things a little bit different than Novello.
Yeah.
We still have very similar outcomes, but I start my presentation the same way by saying thank you. I'll be like, hey, I just want to start off by saying thank you. I know that there's a lot of real estate agents out there, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. And then at that point, I'll say something along the lines, how do you feel about the move? Are you excited, nervous? How do you feel? It gives them the opportunity to open up a little bit and let me know what they're actually feeling. They'll be like, well, you know what? We're actually really nervous. Or we're actually really excited. It's a good icebreaker, good way for me to start. At that point, I may choose to go in a couple different directions. So in some cases, if maybe my status is a little bit here in their eyes and I need to sell them a little bit, I may go into a couple of samples of marketing. So I may say, hey, look, this is just a couple of quick examples of things that we can do to help you.
Yeah.
And if they told me over the phone, well, look, we need help preparing the property for sale, I'll sell with that. I'll sell, well, look, one of the good things about working with me is that I actually have a group of college students that can actually come and help us pack up everything for you. That way we can get the house ready for sale. If the house is vacant, I'll be like, look, one of the good things about us is that we actually provide complimentary home staging, meaning I have an interior design gal that can come here and help you stage the property for you. Or if I look for things where I can add potential value, and then that usually gets her attention. I'll show them examples of before properties that were listed with somebody else and after properties. And then what I do is I jump right into the CMA presentation, which is where we're at right now.
Yes.
A lot of that I didn't feel comfortable with personally. And I still don't feel comfortable with it. So don't imagine that because he's closed 8 times that has to be exactly the way that you have to do it. For me, it's like, here's a couple samples of marketing.
Yeah.
Great. What I've done next for you is I prepared what I call comparative market analysis. And I've looked for ways to add potential value to whatever their situation is. If they have a tenant, I'm looking for ways to add value there. If their property is vacant, I'm looking to add value there. If their property is has a lot of personal stuff, I'm looking for ways to add value there. I feel that it's coming from a place of contribution, like I'm looking to help you, and it also like, oh man, this guy's gonna help us with everything, basically.
Yeah, and I think that you do marketing better than me.
100%.
So
That's why I think I would
so
win.
what I'm aware of is if you don't know how to market, you have to become a rock star salesperson. That's what's true. So he takes the approach of utilizing the marketing. I just go directly to
because he's a rock star salesperson.
Right. That's exactly right.
That's not. I'm an undercover rock star salesperson.
Yeah. But and I'm aware. But like so, using a little bit of what we're doing, they both work. But having sprinkling in assumptive closes with his shit will rocket you, right? Being more direct and having some more closes before you get to the end will also rocket you. So it's a combination of what we're doing.
The other thing is when I walk into the house, I'll ask for a tour of the property. So I'll say something like, do you mind if I get a tour of the home?
Yeah.
And then some of them may say, well, you can do it on your own. In that case, I proceed to do it on my own. Or they'll say, oh yeah, let me walk around with you and let me show you some of the things about the property.
Great.
And I'm making mental notes.
Yeah, and some of you guys want to tell the people, no, I want to do this by myself. Like, why are you doing that?
No. I lost so many listings.
But it's only because he was being told to do that. And I would get on calls with them. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Well, they told me.
So many of them.
I'm like, bro, if they tell you want to walk around, great, thanks. And then they're going to say, oh, we changed our doorknobs and we have new toilet paper and we have this. And you're like, oh, wow, that's fantastic. You know what I mean?
Got it. So the way I present the CMA is very similar. We both present it very similar. I'll say, so here's what I've done for you.
Because, and just to be clear, I'm sorry I interrupted. To be clear, that's where we are in the presentation. Because remember,
CMA
there's from the time you hit the door to the time you start to talk about price, then there's price, then there's handling objections and closing. So we did, in terms of the journey, we're now at the place where we talk about price.
Where we talk about the price. And then in some cases, like let's say I'm presenting price already, and they tell me, well, what do you think my home is worth? Like, that shakes up a lot of people right off the bat. Like if you're presenting right in the middle of presentation and you're like, what do you think my home is worth? People are like,
and then verbally vomit.
600,000. And then if you say the wrong number, boom. What I say is, look, I could easily tell you, but the very next thing that you're gonna ask me is, how did you come up with that number? So as opposed to me just telling you, let me show you how I came up with that number. And I promise you that after this, it's gonna be 100% clear where the value of the property is. I used to get stuck on that. Be like, say a number, and then after that, even the most extreme driver is gonna, okay, let me have them show me. It's also, I'm taking control of the presentation as well. So what I'll do is I'll be like, okay, so here's what I've done in preparation for our meeting. I'm prepared for our meeting. Here's what I've done in preparation for our meeting. So what I've done in preparation for our meeting is I prepared what I call a comparative market analysis. It's just a fancy word for what is active right now in the marketplace, and then what is closed and sold most recently. Now, it's important to understand when looking at the comparative market analysis is that none of the properties are ever going to be exactly the same. And when I say that, what do they start doing? They start nodding their head.
Because they all think theirs is what? Unique and the best.
And it makes logical sense. Every property is different. So I'll be like, every property is going to vary based on condition. It's going to vary based on location. It's going to vary based on condition, location, floor plan, and square footage. And then it's also going to vary based on time that it's sold. So in other words, a market analysis is never going to give us an exact dollar amount. Because what do they want? They want an exact dollar amount. There is no exact price for the property. The marketplace will determine the right price. And that's not what I said. The marketplace will determine the right price. All we want to do is be somewhere in the ballpark. If you're somewhere in the ballpark, the property is going to sell.
Exactly. So notice the key differential. Most people are going in and saying this. What we're doing is saying like, listen, you're not going to get a pinpoint to the penny in terms of price. Instead, you're going to end up with a tight, realistic range as to what's reasonable. Then from there, it'll come down to strategy, right? And there's two strategies, and we'll go over those strategies because I want you to feel comfortable with the one you end up choosing, and whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. So do you see how that differentiates you? And it goes from being combative to being collaborative. Make sense?
Great. So there's two strategies. One of them, we start a little bit higher to maybe leave a little bit of room to negotiate and pay attention to their body language. If you say that and that's a strategy that they want to choose, what are they going to do? Yep. They're going to start nodding their head. Or the second one, we can start off a little bit lower. Sometimes that drives a little bit more traffic, and sometimes instead of getting one particular buyer, we can get people to compete, and that'll ultimately drive the price up.
Yes.
And if they're in favor for that strategy, they're going to start nodding their head. So you're able to pick up on verbal cues. Now, let me ask you this. Are you able to be that aware of their body language if you haven't practiced the presentation?
No.
Are you going to notice things like that? You're not. The reality is that you're going to be so focused on what do I say next versus being fully present and watching their body language. And by that, you're going to be able to pick up on certain things.
Yes. Yeah, and then to add on to that, where it's like, well, yeah, where the second strategy is we can position the property a little bit more competitively, right? Like maybe in line with what's sold recently or a hair below. The logic behind that strategy is we get a lot of people interested, force people to compete. What ends up coming to the surface is the most that somebody's willing to pay. And what something's worth is what someone's willing to pay. They know this and they're like, oh. Yeah, and you end up with the best terms and conditions. Can I explain to you what I mean? Well, the marketplace has shifted, and I don't know if you know this, the cost of money's doubled in the last 18 months. So if you have 2 or 3 offers on the table, or even 4 or 5, and let's say 3 of them are contingent on their home selling and their FHA and their VA, and one of them is putting 50% down and the other one's cash, which one do you think we're gonna go with? Why? That's right. So just by you saying that demonstrates that you're beginning to realize that that's a strategy not only to help you get the most, but also end up with the best terms. Do you want the best terms, Peter? Okay, so that might be a strategy that you want to consider.
So even whenever we go to the two strategies, what I like to say as well too is, so as it relates to strategy, you're the boss. You get to make all the final decisions. I'll make a recommendation, but at the end of the day, you get to make the final decision as to where we start off with.
Yeah, and whatever you decide, I'm going to support you
100%.
100%.
You're giving the control to them versus, hey, this is what we're going to list your property for. This is no. They're going to be like, who? You're going to tell me what to list my home for? Not gonna happen.
Not going to happen.
Now, the way I transition out of that after I say that is like, before we get into the comps, I want to confirm a couple of details with you about your property, and I pull up the tax records. Why do I pull up the tax records? The reason I pull up the tax records is people in their head imagine that their square footage is larger sometimes, that their lot size is larger, or that their property was newer, and I want to confirm that we're on the same page about that, or in case I miss something, I don't want to be comparing their 2,000 square foot property to a 1,500 square foot property because that's going to create a disconnect. And if there's a disconnect, I want to address it right up front. So just to confirm a couple of details about your property, tax records show your property has a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 square feet, built in 1975 with a 12,000 square foot lot. Does that look accurate? I could have sworn my house was bigger. Have you done an addition to it at any time? No, I haven't. Okay, so more than likely this is where it actually is, unless you've done an addition.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, I thought my lot size was bigger.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought some land from any of your neighbors? No, I have not. More than likely this is accurate. And it puts them back where the reality is. So now when you're looking at the other properties, they're not thinking, oh, because here's what will happen. If you're going over the comps and they're thinking in their head, because you never addressed that they have a 20,000 square foot lot and you're showing them 12,000 square foot lots, there's going to be a huge
And they're going to think you don't know
disconnect.
what you're doing, right? They immediately start to doubt you.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Do you ask any of them the pre-listing? Because I've gone to properties and the property's like way off
From the tax records?
comps, yeah.
So and this is before the presentation. So there's a 5-step listing process. Step 1 is setting the appointment. Step 2 is you pre-qualify the appointment, meaning you ask them a series of questions to help you prepare for the appointment. One of them is, would you describe the home for me? Would you describe the property for me? You're looking for condition, you're looking for square footage, you're looking for bedrooms, bathrooms. and anything that they've done that would affect the value of the property at that time.
So you do?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, before you get to the appointment. That way, like, so my goal when I'm asking, would you describe the property to me, is to be able to visualize what the property looks like in my head, so that when I'm selecting the comps, I'm able to select the best comps that best reflect that.
Right, and you can even say that. So in order, my intention in asking these questions is not to be nosy. Instead, it's to gather as much information as I can, so I can make our time as effective and efficient as possible, and really, provide value for you and your family, and then get into the questions. What also popped up for me is if I start to do the comps and something's off, I'll call them back. A lot of you guys are afraid to call them back. I don't know why, but just call them back. Like, hey, I was looking at the comps. I know you said it's 2,000 square feet, and I'm looking here in the tax rolls. It says it's X. Have you done any additions? Did you pull any permits? Because in Hialeah, does anybody pull permits? No. And do appraisers count shit if there's no permits pulled? No. Right? So I have to, I would go back and gather that information.
Now here's the next question for everybody. How many comps do you guys pull? Like, what's the magic number of comps to pull? How many?
This is cool, bro. Everybody's got a different answer.
What is it? What is it? Three? Are they actives? Are they sold? What are they? Sold? One active?
Notice, guys, this is so funny. This is awesome.
But this is so important because I show up to listing presentations and I see what other agents bring and I see the amount of comps that they bring and it's fucking confusing.
Yeah, really confusing. And let me give you an example.
Sorry,
if you guys are at Subway ordering a sandwich and they're like, hey, do you want some mustard? You're like, sure. Like, what kind do you like? You're like, what do you got? And they tell you 10 mustards. What happens to your brain? It shuts down. Like, I don't even give a shit. Like the yellow one, I don't know, right? It's too much. And you know also why you guys are giving so much information? Because you're afraid. And you actually don't really know what it should be at. So I think that by having crazy amounts of information that'll help me in some way. It doesn't, it confuses them more.
So what's the right answer to that question?
Yeah.
As many as you need to paint a picture.
Correct.
So if 2 paint a picture, that's it. If 4 paint the picture, that's it. If 3 of them paint the picture, that's it. If it's actives that paint the picture, great. If it's sold that paint the picture, great. If it's pending, there are no rules as it relates to comps. We don't have to live by the same rules that appraisers live by. Appraisers have rules as to how many radius, how many square feet. We don't have any of those rules, which is great. That when we're doing the market analysis, all we care about is where is the marketplace now? Does that mean I can go a mile out to like there's a neighborhood behind Toppers that's gated? I can go over to the Seabreeze community that's gated. There are no rules as to where, if the comps have to be in the same neighborhood. All we care about is what's gonna tell us where the marketplace is. Now, if there's properties that are in escrow, like this is a technique that I used when the market was going up. The best comps were not the properties that sold 3 months ago. Why? They were outdated. So the best comps were the comps of the properties that were in escrow. Now, the price that they have it listed for, is that always what they're in escrow for if the market's going like this? So would it be helpful if you see something listed at $800,000 to call the listing agent and be like, hey, look, are you in escrow above $850,000? And if they say yes, now you show up, everybody else is saying you're right around $800,000. You're like, hey, look, I can actually get you $850,000. Who's gonna win the listing?
100%.
Right?
Yeah. And something that I would do, I think he's right, there's no magic answer, but you wanna do the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. Right? And for me, it was 3 actives, 3 closed, and like 2 pendings if I could find them. Because that's enough to paint a picture. And a lot of you guys spend just countless hours of time with like spreadsheets and graphs and 3 hours doing a CMA. It's a waste of time. Because if you were that good at pricing property, all your shit would sell with no price reductions. Does that happen?
And it would sell at the same exact
You're
price.
not that good at it anyway. Guys, I want you to understand something. You know what you had to do to get a real estate license? Get a 75 on a test. Pay $1,000 and not be a felon.
Come on, be nice.
Hey, and not be a felon yet. Why do you think you're like God's gift to real estate? Or that like you like magically, I am omnipotent and omnipresent, I know everything about prices. You don't. So I just want to be in a range. I don't want to pinpoint, bro. I want like within striking distance, 10 or 15, 20,000 bucks striking distance, depending on price points.
Now, when you're preparing comps, the way that I look at that presentation is almost like painting a picture. You're going over the comps and you're painting a picture of where the value is. And then at the end, you're gonna ask them, based on what we see, where is the marketplace showing us that price-wise we would need to be at that is somewhat reflective of fair market value. So even if I'm presenting comps, like the way you organize the comps is important. So in a market that's going up, I put lowest to highest. In a market that's going down, I put highest to lowest. And the reason I do that is that I want to, if the market's going up, like it was when the interest rates went up, I want to put that monkey out on the table because they're going to bring it up. And the way I'm going to present it is going to be different. So when the market is going down and I know that there was a property that sold when interest were 3%, I'll be like, look, the first comp I'm going to show you is a property that sold right here at $900,000. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is that it sold in February. Now in February, the interest rates were 3%. I've seen an adjustment in the marketplace now, and prices have adjusted from that price, and then I go to where the marketplace is. I go to the pendings or the ones that are active at that moment. But I used to struggle in regards to like even the order, like let's say you got 3 comps, I used to struggle, be like, okay, well I present lowest to highest, but I don't want to save the highest if the market's shifting.
Yeah,
so,
and really the intention behind this is what will allow it to become easier. The intention is not, it's really to help them to self-discover what's true. People don't do what you want them to do, they do what they self-discover. I'm going to say that again, not because you didn't hear me. People do not do what you want them to do, they do what they self-discover. So self-discovery is helping them, as Jose's saying, paint a picture, get them to a place, and then you ask them. So I'm curious, if you were a buyer, not a seller, because I know those hats are different. Notice when I did that, people are like, yeah, they are different. And you were going to buy this home all over again, having seen what's active on the market, not selling, and seen what's sold and closed most recently. Honestly, why do I say the word honestly? Everything after that word has to be what?
Honest.
Honestly, where do you think you would feel comfortable making an offer that you believe would be reflective of fair market value?
now,
Who's telling me the price? They are. Now, a couple things. One is, when I say fair, why do I say the word fair? In America, do we have a really strong concept of fairness? Huge. If we perceive it to be unfair, we freak the fuck out. So I think everybody understood that rich people like would grease people to get their kids in college. We all knew that. But once we really knew it, people had to go to jail. Right? So we have a really strong concept of fairness. So when I say fair market value, that triggers in your brain what? I have to be fair.
now, before I go into the fair market, so I'll go over the comps, and then I'll say, let me give you a quick summary of what we just went over. Because it could be a little bit confusing and they may need a little bit of a refreshment. I'll be like, we have the property that's on your same street that's the same model. It sold 2 months ago, no pool, and it sold at $950. So we're probably higher than that, and I'll draw like a little arrow. Then we have the model match with the pool that's currently in escrow. That one sold at $1,050,000. And then I'll ask them, like, how does that property compare to your property? Would you say that it's similar? Would you say that it's better? Or would you say that it's worse? Like, oh, well, we have this and we have that. Well, would you say that they have some things that you don't have and you have some things that they don't have? They'd be like, yeah. So would you say that it's similar in that respective? Okay, great. So that one is similar and that one sold at $1,050,000. Then we have this other one that is 500 square feet bigger, and that one sold at $1,200,000, has a pool, $300,000 in the renovation. Why am I saying the $300,000? Because I'm painting the picture that more than likely it's not there. So based on what we see, where is the marketplace showing us that we would need to be at that would be somewhat reflective of fair market value?
And the key phrase that he just said there is, what's telling them? Is he telling them, or is the market? Where's the marketplace showing us we would need to be at in order to create value in the eyes of the buyer and make them choose yours versus the competition? And then be quiet. And they're going to do one of 3 things. The first is they're going to say something reasonable, which rarely happens. Because George Carlin says, like, if you ever notice that my stuff is stuff and your stuff is shit, everybody thinks their stuff is the best. It's called the endowment effect. It's a psychological thing. So they're either going to say something reasonable, like, yeah, maybe around like $1,050,000. And then you say, yeah, I agree with you. The marketplace is showing us somewhere around $1,050,000 seems to be reasonable. Now the question is how do we get there? And it comes down to strategy. And we have 2 strategies in order to accomplish that. And we'll go over them together because I want you to feel comfortable with the one we end up choosing. Fair enough? And then we go over the strategy. Start high or come down, or this strategy, right? And whatever you decide is fine based on what you're looking to accomplish and why. What do you think we should do? And you give it to them, right? Now they say something unreasonable. I want $1,300,000. Right? Which can happen. And if they say something unreasonable, Like, yeah, I want $1.3 million. He's like, gosh, man. And trust me, I'd love to be your superhero, put an S on my chest and cape on my back and make that happen for you. I mean, I'd love to be 6'5" and play for the Dolphins, you know? What I'm also aware of is what something's worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. Would you agree? And I'm curious, like, if you were a buyer knowing that other home, they put $300,000 into it and it's gonna sell for like 1.3 and they have modifications that we don't, I mean, honestly, you may offer a little bit more than like $1.5 million. Do you think you'd offer $250,000 more?
You're not telling them.
And then be quiet. Not saying like you're crazy, but then be quiet and they'll be like, well, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so, ultimately, the marketplace dictates value. So now it's just a matter of strategy. So let me ask you this. What would happen on the outside chance if we were still sitting here 6 months from now and it wasn't sold? Would that be okay with you? No, tell me why. Well, I gotta move and I want my wife to move with me. Okay, so that's not acceptable to you. So recognize if we use the strategy of starting at 1.3, that could jeopardize the time in which you make the move. And you're indicating to me that that's not something that you're interested in, is it? And that's when the wife looks at the husband, she's like, because it's usually the husband's like, it's fucking bullshit, right? She's like, come on, honey, and I just let them work it out, because she's gonna sell them way more than I will, right? So do you see that process? It's not magic. Like they're gonna say something that's very, like duplicatable and repeatable. They say the same thing over and over again.
Or the other thing that they could say, well, I want to hear what you have to say about the price. And that is a trap.
It's a trap.
That is a trap.
And you guys fall right into it.
Know that there's landmines just waiting for you to step into.
It's like a bomb. They like bit a grenade and they're like.
It's just a landmine right there. It is a trap. As soon as you hear those words, smile. Smile, because it's a trap, but you already know there's a trap there because we're letting you know about it right there, right?
That's right.
That's the power of good mentorship as well, too.
Yeah.
All right. So what I usually say, I'll be like, well, that's a great question. The way I usually like to think about this process is I like to think about it from a buyer's perspective. So right now, we have our seller's cap on. For a moment, let's put our buyer's cap on. Let's say that we were shopping for real estate, right? And you came across this property right here. Like, oh my God, this is the right property for me. I want to make an offer on it. More than likely, the next question you're going to ask is your agent. You're going to ask them, how much should I pay for this property? And your agent is going to say, well, look, and you bring them back to the comps. This property that didn't have a pool sold at $900,000. This property that had a pool which we agreed to sold at $1.05 million. That is very similar. And the one that has $300,000 in upgrades sold at $1.3 million. Honestly, if you were a buyer, what do you think that you would be willing to offer for your property, for this property, that would be somewhat reflective of fair market value? And guess what happens? They forget that they asked you for the value and they can't hold themselves. They'll be like, well, I'll probably offer like somewhere around $1 million. Or I'll probably offer somewhere around $1.05 million.
Yeah.
Or they'll say something illogical, but they've told you the number that they're thinking already.
If they say, like, let's say, yeah, I'd probably offer somewhere like $1.05 million. Yeah, and don't you think most buyers would feel pretty similar to you? So we're in agreement that the marketplace is showing us somewhere around $1.05 million seems to be reasonable.
Now it just comes down to strategy.
Oh my God, you see what we're doing?
You see how you saw the bomb and you're like, huh?
Yeah. I saw it and I avoided it.
You see?
Versus stepping into it and then they're like, oh, you know.
As soon as you say $1 million, the body language is going to change 100%.
Yep.
So when they ask you that, it's a trick question, do it. And if they say, well, I don't know, what do you think? Now, if they ask you a second time, you have to tell them.
Yes,
but the way I tell them is to be like, well, I'm looking at this information, honestly, would you pay more than $1.05 million for the property?
Go. And what I will do is I will ease the tension, because that's a tense conversation, right? It's tense. So I'll say, well, do I have permission to be candid and straightforward? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, you're not going to get angry and throw me out of the house? Right? And they're always like, ha ha ha. Or they say, maybe. You know what I'm saying? But I just relieved all the tension
in the room, because there's tension there.
Yeah.
But that's a way of me telling them, hey, I think your property is worth $1.05 million, without me telling them it's worth $1.05 million, asking to be like, hey, would you honestly pay more than $1.05 million? But that right there, you're not gonna throw me out of the room. It'll break the ice right there. You're not gonna like throw me. And here's the good thing, that you guys can watch this recording, write all this stuff down, and be like, whenever you run into these situations, you can be like, oh, that's where it's at.
Which I always love when this happens. So, I have the good fortune of coaching people across the country, and I'll go back to Tim as another example. He's a rock star agent, $1 million producer in Westlake, I think, Village. And
I'm surprised he's not at EXP yet. To be honest.
we're working on it. We're working on it.
I'm
So
kinda
we're working on it. So
I'm kinda like-
what I'm aware of is when I first met him, seasoned, bro, seasoned. He's been doing this longer than me. But he was losing out on appointments. He was going on all these appointments. He's like, bro, and I don't have a lot of like there's like maybe because the price points are so high, you maybe get like 35 opportunities in a year to sell like a $2 to $5 million house. And he was losing out on opportunities. So we spent countless calls role playing. Over and over. And what do I say if they want to think about it? What if I say if I want to do this? What do I say if this? And I remember the first time he actually applied it, he's ecstatic. He's like, bro, you're never going to believe it. I said, what? He's, bro, I said what we did in the role play. I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, oh, it worked. I'm like, uh-huh. Did you think I was going to tell you some shit that didn't work? Like, of course it works. So I always find it's like amazing when people apply it and then realize like, oh, this is something that I can do. Because I promise you, me and Jose did not come out of the womb speaking like this.
I
Okay?
lost 95 of them my first year out of the 100. 95 of them I lost.
And that's an example of proximity.
Painful.
Proximity being power. He got proximity to somebody who could tell him what to say and how to say it. Does that make sense? And this is that tactical, practical information that you can use to deal with this marketplace, and it's a strategy to do that.
Now, do you guys want to see the magical close? Right? All right. So we agree on a price. Great. I'm in agreement on the price with you. The only other question that I have for you is, when would you like to come on the marketplace? And I show them a calendar. And then I basically tell them, on my end, I need a minimum of 3 days from the day you give me the green light to get all the pictures and all the marketing done for your property. So, and this may be too soon for you, Peter, but if you tell me today, the soonest I could have it on the market would be the 21st. That might be too soon for you. And guess what starts to happen, guys? They'll be like, well, no, the 21st wouldn't work out. My kids don't have school next week, so that's probably a good week for me to get the property ready for sale. I'm actually going on a trip on the 28th, so I'm probably thinking somewhere around the 4th would probably work with that. I'm like, great, write it down. I'm in agreement with you on the 4th.
Yeah, and what we can do now is we can take care of the appropriate paperwork together as a team. We'll do that now. And we can implement, like a coming soon strategy, right? And well, obviously we're not going to put it on the market. We can start to let people know in our database and all the buyers we're working with that it's getting ready to come on the market for sale. So that way when it is ready on the 4th, all we have to do is take pictures and open up the floodgates, and that can result in lots of showings and offers. Is that a strategy that you want to take advantage of? Yes, great. So I have the appropriate paperwork with me. Did you want to sign, or do you want to sign first? You got it? Yeah. That's how that works.
Hey, show them the date, and it's like they start like saying, hey, look, this is the way it's going to work out. Great. I'm in agreement on the date. And why do I ask the date? What do you need to sign a listing agreement? What are the 3 things you need for a listing agreement? You need a price. So we went over the price, right? What else do you need? You need a date of when it's going to come on the market. So I ask them the date. That way I could fill in the listing agreement. And then the last thing is commission. You need those 3 things. Now, if they don't ask me for the commission, I'm just going to assume
blow
6%.
right by it. Yeah.
Just going to assume the 6%. Great. I'm in agreement with you on the price. I'm in agreement with you on the commission. The next step is I'm going to explain all the paperwork with you, and then that's going to allow me to start doing this for you. So if I made certain promises to them, that's going to allow me to have my box guy come over and help you box up the items. That's going to allow me to start coordinating all the cleaning lady. That's going to allow me to get the staging started. Why? Because they want all those things. And if not, they're going to want you to do all those things without you getting a contract signed. So that's going to allow me to, so the next step is I'm going to explain to you all the paperwork. That's going to allow me to do this, this, and this. Do you have any other questions before we go ahead and take care of the paperwork?
Yeah, and what he just said is so important, because a lot of you guys will run around doing all that shit
without them signing
in
anything.
hopes that they're going to say yes to you.
But guess what happens? This is the risk with that. So if you run around getting your staging gal, or you run around getting a cleaning lady, or you run around getting this and they haven't signed something, what if the cleaning lady shows up 30 minutes late?
Boom.
Is that a good reflection of you?
Nope.
And does that jeopardize the fact that you may get a contract signed? What if the staging gal says something like, oh, like we need to paint this wall white instead of red, and she's like, oh, that's my favorite wall right there.
My grandma painted that wall.
My grandma painted that wall. Guess what that does? Now that jeopardizes you getting that contract signed.
That's exactly right.
It's really not only that, but the worst case scenario is somebody like me or Aaron show up in that little window when you're doing all that stuff. We give a presentation, we get the contract signed, and then you've done all this work for
nothing, and I get to make my favorite phone call.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's my favorite. To other agents. Hey, Tom. Yep, it's Aaron here. And I know they know. Fuck. Yeah, I just want to let you know I met with the Smiths, and they decided to hire us. I'd love to have the opportunity to work with you. If you have a buyer, bring them by. But you can go ahead and cancel your appointment at 4. Bye-bye now.
Come on, Aaron. That's not your favorite phone call.
Oh, it's the favorite one. Yeah, it's one of the favorites for sure. Yeah.
Have you guys ever received a phone call like that?
Uh-huh. Bro, I'll give you one story. I was on an appointment, at the beginning of my career, I went on an expired appointment, and this is at the time where there's massive expires. There were 4 people going on the appointment. But I purposely scheduled myself so I was the last one. I knew there was an appointment at 3, right? So I show up at 3:30 and I knock on the door. My appointment's at 4. Person comes to the door, they're like, oh no, if you don't mind, we have an agent here. I was like, oh, it's no problem. I could just wait in the living room. Bro, you want to see somebody turn white and shit their pants? And I just sit there, and I watch him start to fumble. He's like, mess his whole thing up. I'm like, get the fuck out of there, bro. So he gets out. I sit down with the seller. The husband looks right at me. He goes, that was stone cold. And then he proceeded to list the property with me. Right? So, yeah, what Jose's saying is this is a zero-sum game. I want everybody in this room to be as successful as possible. I want you to take as many listings as you possibly can. And our intention today is to be that relationship for you guys. Right? To equip you with what you need, the tactical, practical information that you need in this marketplace with regards to strategy. Are we clear that we need a different strategy? Yeah. With regards to what to say and how to say it. Are we more clear on what to say and how to say it? Yeah. Does it seem like it's like some sort of coincidence that me and Jose are lucky that we list so many properties? Does that seem true? No. There's a very logical, practical system that we're using that you guys can learn. Okay? So I think what would be cool now is maybe to open it up for a quick Q&A. Any questions and answers? Yeah. Anything you guys got? We got microphones if anybody's got any questions. Yes, ma'am.
So you say that you don't come to a price right away.
Yes.
So do you do a net sheet? And I don't think
no.
You don't do a net sheet.
I don't avoid a net sheet as much as I can. And people get so analytical on the net sheet. They're like, $55 for a notary? And it's like, or the other agent said the notary is going to be free.
Yes.
And it's like, dude, you're making a $500,000 decision over a $50. They get so analytical.
You're like creating friction that doesn't need to be any. So what I used to do, because I was trained to do it, I would send the net sheet before I go and people would cancel appointments. So then I experientially stopped doing that. And instead, once we have agreement, I have them start to take care of the paperwork. And after they sign a 4-page listing agreement, what's the thing we're looking at? The net sheet.
Or for me, if they ask me, well, how much am I going to net at that price that you're going to list it at? I'll take out my pencil. I'll be like, okay, well, if you price it at $950, I could even run a couple scenarios for you, all right? $950, and then minus the commissions, we're left with this. For escrow, title, and transfer tax, we can assume about 3/4 of a percentage point, which is less than 1%. That would give us a net of approximately $545,000.
And then you could say to them, and I'm wondering, would that allow you to make this move happen? Because if you say, was that enough, is it ever enough? It's never fucking enough. So instead it's like, well, I'm wondering, would that allow you to make this move happen in Texas? Yeah, it'd probably allow us to.
The net sheet, people get so analytical. It's such a deal breaker if you do that. You can still accomplish the same thing, and you can even run a couple different scenarios just by having a simple pen and a paper and be like, oh, let me run a couple different scenarios.
Yeah, so to me, that's similar to them asking you what the price is up front, and it creates friction. So if you tell them, they shut down, and that's what you're kind of doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's why.
Not only that, but a net sheet you have to prepare in advance, which means you already have the price that you're thinking in their head.
And they'll be like, well, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Lisa.
Lisa. They're like, well, Lisa doesn't believe in our house.
If you have the wrong number on there. So the way to always be prepared is just 0.0075, the price minus the commission, which the commission's negotiable as well too.
Yeah, and I'll even
meaning you guys can negotiate that and come up with different scenarios for them. Would that work for you?
Yeah, and I'll even tell them before I go in the prequal. So what I'll do is I'll bring with me the appropriate paperwork, right? So provided that it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident, we can get started right away. I'll also have with me a net sheet, so that way you can see dollars and cents what the proceeds would be when you move to Texas. Would that work for you?
My net sheet is this.
Yeah.
This manila folder, I think that's what it's called. Actually, when I get to the presentation and I'm writing the comps, I have it on the table. One of the struggles that I had was putting the contract on the table. I wanted to kind of keep it in my bag because I was nervous about putting it on the table. So I just started putting in this manila folder, started using this to write different scenarios on it, and then the contract's already on the table.
That's right.
I don't have to worry about taking the contract out. It's already there. You know?
It's good.
Simple for me. I had a lot of like things that I had to overcome to become the person that I did, and that's how I was able to overcome some of those things.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good question. Good question.
Was that helpful?
Yes, very much.
What is your strategy to overcome the commission objection?
Yeah, so I think it's like, that's interesting, and I think me and Jose will both be able to answer that. I think what's happened is like we don't recognize that they have a lot of options at their disposal now, way more than they did in the past. And I'm going to say something to you guys that you're probably not going to like. Okay? There's an argument to be made that you make too much money for what you're doing. I mean, there's an argument to be made for that. Like you're making $30,000 to sell a house, like that's a lot of money, right? They know this, and they know that they have lots of choices and options at their disposal. So if you're approaching this from like an all or nothing mentality, you're gonna lose shit all the time. Me and Jose had this conversation, bro. He called me one day, he's like, yo, I got this guy, he wants to list a home with me, but he will not, I've used all of the handlers, tried to do it, whatever. He won't go more than 4%. I said, okay, what's the hesitation? He's like, I don't know, should I do it? I'm like, let me ask you a question, Jose. He's like, yeah. I'm like, where did your family come from originally?
Mexico.
He's like, Mexico. I'm like, what did your grandpa do when he came here? He's like, he picked strawberries. I was like, was that a hard fucking job? He's like, yeah. I'm like, did he get a lot of breaks? He's like, no. Was that 6 days a week or 3 days a week? He's like, 6. So I'm like, let's imagine for a moment, you called your grandpa, if he was still living, and you said, hey grandpa, here's the deal. I have to drive over to this place in a moving couch that entertains me, okay?
Blah, blah, blah.
Go blah, 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 scribble on a sheet of paper, and I'm gonna make 20,000 bucks. Would he be like, no son, you shouldn't do that? He was like, no, of course he would. I also asked him, are they motivated? Are they gonna price it at a price that's gonna cause it to sell? He said, yeah. I said, go get it. He ended up doing it and double ending it. So my whole point is
And
that
I got like another listing in the neighborhood.
correct. So my point is that it's negotiable. And the way that I handle that is like, look, the professional fee, it's not gonna be a reason why we don't do business. I promise you. We're gonna come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties. And I don't want us to do something that we don't both feel comfortable about, because if we don't both feel comfortable, we won't do it. That also raises my status. Like we're on the same playing field. And now it becomes this like, okay, like we're both gonna be reasonable. You strike me, Peter, to be someone who's reasonable, so I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial.
What
Right?
I usually say as well too is I'll be like, well, look, that's a really good question. I start off by because what do most people do when they hear the commission thing? They tense up.
Freeze.
They freeze. So smile. That's a really good question. Here's what I tell my clients. I don't have a set commission that I charge. I'm flexible on that. I usually try to accommodate my services to whatever my clients' needs are. Is there a certain commission structure that would work for you?
Boom.
And guess what? I put it back on
Them.
Now they might say, well, instead of 6, I was thinking 5.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking 5.5. You're over here imagining they're thinking
3.
4% or 3%. You have no idea what they're thinking. What were you thinking? Well, I was thinking 5%. Oh. Wow. 5%?
Like total?
Like
Or just for me?
Just on the listing side, or are we talking about the whole thing? But do you see like if you throw it back at them now you're going to have to make a decision. You can either choose to negotiate at that
Right.
time, or you can say something like, Aaron, let me ask you this. If I did it for 5%, would there be any other reason we wouldn't do business today?
I don't think so.
What did I just do? I shook on it.
That's right.
Do people like to shake on things and not follow through on them?
This is a signal of
we
what?
got a deal.
We're doing a deal. Does that make sense? And what he said there is really important. So the other thing I would do is before I start to get into that conversation, the only thing that I would do in between is I'd say, okay, so it sounds like if we can come to an agreement in terms of the professional fee that there wouldn't be any other reason why we couldn't do business. Is that right? That's called setting it aside. Because you guys run headfirst into that objection, but there's 2 or 3 more behind them. Like I want to think about it, I want to do that, right?
Or here's what's going to happen. If you say no, or I charge 6%, any other questions, and you say no, I'm not willing to negotiate, next.
See ya. That's what
Somebody
happens.
else would be willing to do it.
Right.
And unless you're the type of agent that basically they're like, dude, this guy's the best. I don't care what he charges.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, next. Even for me,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, next.
And I think the thing too that's also interesting, and the reason why I said about that argument to be made about making too much money, is most of you guys don't have additional ways of adding tangible value. It's more like, you should list with me and pay this just because. Which is fucking dumb. Imagine if you went to other places and that's what they said.
Now,
So Jose, look, if you list with him, he has a moving truck you could use for free. If you list with him, he'll stage the home for free. If you list with him and you need a place intermediate, he has Airbnbs that you could stay at for free. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, he has real things that are actually worth real what? Value, not like, I deserve it.
Now, here's another thing on that. If they ask you over the phone before you go on the appointment, what's your commission? Do you say, oh, it's 6%? Trap.
Done.
Another trap right there. Another landmine. Don't say I charge 6%. Great. Here, here's what I tell my clients. That's a really good question. Here's what I tell my clients. I usually try to be flexible on my commission, just depending on whatever my clients' needs are. Here's what I can promise you. When we meet, if you like the services that we offer, I promise you commission will not be the reason we don't do business. Is that okay with you?
I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial.
Because when you're in front of them, you could actually showcase your value proposition and why you're the right person for the job. And you're not going to be able to close them on the telephone. I can't tell you how many listings I've taken because somebody else goes, the other agent said they'll charge 6.5%. I meet with them, I'll be like, oh, I'll charge you 5.5. Great, we got a deal.
Yeah.
That person went to high school with them. It's a best friend of them. They're willing to throw that relationship for that extra
I love when
0.5%.
people are like, they're a best friend. You're like, well, you know, my experience is this is a business decision about who can help you net the most and do it quickly and efficiently. So it always makes sense to get more than one opinion with regards to strategy, price, and commission. I'm wondering, do you think that would be helpful or useful? Watch that friendship get diminished to nothing. Well, you know, we haven't been friends for that long, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Super quick.
Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Good. Yes, sir. Little loud.
Are you competing with iBuyers, open door?
Yeah, so that's gone. That's diminished dramatically. So, like, the question was, are we competing with iBuyers?
Yeah.
And that's diminished dramatically. So in 2021, I was going up against Open Door frequently. But you'll notice their strategy has changed. Okay?
They're trying to work with agents now.
You know what they're saying? We're your best friends. When meanwhile, fucking 12 months ago, they're sending stuff in the mail like, fuck those agents, you don't need them. Right? So the marketplace has changed and their marketing budgets have shrunk and they're all shrinking. So it's much less. And what I would say to people in those instances is like, well, you know, I'm aware that in that particular business model, their goal and objective is to buy your home.
To make a profit.
To make a profit. And I would much rather you have the profit. So I know this is a business decision about getting the most and who can do it quickly and efficiently. And as such, it usually makes sense to get more than one opinion just to make sure you're making the best choice. Does that make sense to you? And they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. So if we were to get together, under normal conditions, would you be available in the evenings or the afternoons and I just close for an appointment?
So the way that I usually handle that is, well, look, the difference between Open Door and myself is that Open Door is a home buying company, which means they have to make a profit in order to keep existing in business. Unfortunately, that means that they have to buy your home at a discount and sell it at a higher price. But what's stopping you from making that profit instead of having them? So here's what we can do. If you want to still keep that option open, we can exclude Open Door from any agreement that you and I have.
Yeah.
We could put it on the market and we can see the most that a buyer's willing to pay. And if for whatever reason I'm not able to get you what you want, you can go back to Open Door.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know this, Open Door actually has fees associated with their sales. Did you know that?
5%.
Yeah, and not only that, they
Minus
actually
repair
lost a
costs.
lawsuit where they had to pay $70 million for false advertising. Did you know that? Which is fucking true. Google it. Because they were saying that they could get people more money than agents could. And they got caught in that and they had to pay $70 million for lying. Oh, and by the way, Zillow lost $750 million using their algorithms to buy property.
Not only that, but a good thing for Open Door, you can say, okay, you can definitely sell it to Open Door if you wanted to. Let me ask you this, do you want top dollar or do you want to sell your property for a discount? No, I want top dollar. Well, if you want top dollar, the best way to get top dollar is to put it on the open market, expose it to all of the buyers, and get people competing for your property. If you're willing to sell it for a discount, then Open Door might be the right option for you.
Yeah, and
you're kind of just like keeping that option open.
And so, yeah, and
Yeah,
with
you
that, with that being the case, it really seems as though you getting an additional opinion so you can be crystal clear on all of your options would help you to make the decision that you feel is best. Would you agree? Yes. Yeah, I figured as much. So if we were to connect under normal conditions, would you be available in the evenings or the afternoons?
Now, in some cases, would Open Door offer a ridiculously high price and even after net is more than what you can get them?
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, that's a great offer.
I think you should go with it. I did that multiple times.
They'll pay you 3%.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, that's a great offer. You should go with it or we should go for it.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know? So it's not like when you have enough business, you lose less attachment to the individual deal. Like I had a client very early on in my career as a for sale by owner, and he was like, well, I want to sell, wasn't factoring in capital gains. I told him, not a good idea to sell. He sold 3 properties in his career. Sometimes you're not the best option for them.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, and think about this. I want you guys to like kind of burn
That'll
this.
actually earn you more business.
Yeah, and I want you to burn this into your brain. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate. When you generate, you don't have to tolerate. So if you're generating like in prospecting on a regular basis, you don't have to tolerate like people's stuff. And to Jose's point, you'll earn a client for life by telling him the truth. Like, hey man, like it really seems as though, because if you were to have me help you, you'd have to compensate me to do that. And based on the numbers, it seems like that's a better option for you. So may I make a suggestion? Yeah, I would go with it. And then if for some reason it doesn't work out, you can give me a call. Fair enough? Yeah, that's fair. And then MTFO, move the fuck on. Move on to something else.
Or even exclude them. I've had situations where like, oh, the neighbor wants to buy the property. Let's exclude them from the agreement. The probability of that actually working out is so slim to none that the risk factor is
very small.
Slim. I've burned one time on that in 800 sales. One time. And I've used it so many times just to get a contract signed.
That's good. Good. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, observations, overloads? Yes?
Hallucinations.
Hold on, we got 2. So let's go here and then we'll come back over here.
As far as the contract, do you do it on your iPad or is it a physical?
No,
paper?
physical.
Physical.
Physical. That's the one thing that I like to bring with me, and I like to get it signed because I just like it better that way. And then the other thing that I have is I have a bunch of blank contracts with no names, no commissions, no dates in my car in case I get a phone call and somebody says, I want to list my property with you. I've got a bunch of blank ones. So you'll see some of my listing agreements where they're filled out,
by hand,
written, because what? If somebody wants to sell their home with me today, I am ready to go.
He's prepared.
I'm ready.
I'm the same, physical.
I was going to ask you that same question. That question about the commission, if you write it out or you had blank ones, but you said you had blank ones.
Yeah, and I would always
fill it
leave,
out.
even when I would go and it's filled out, I always leave the commission blank. And I leave it blank on the next sheet.
Yeah, I always do. Because it's going to require a conversation about it in some cases,
Almost all the time, guys. Unless it's your best friend. And even then they might ask you about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always going to be an issue. Always.
Your best friend wants the biggest discount.
Yeah, they want the biggest discount, yeah.
You had a question, Joseph?
Yeah, I had a quick question, Jose. I know you mentioned that you offer like a ton of services for your 6%, and that's great. Like, staging or, cleaning or box guy or moving truck, et cetera. That's, it's really awesome. My question is,
I get this one all the time. I already know what he said.
okay.
Go.
So the question is like, how do you feel offering all those services? Like, do you ever take a listing and offer all of that for a discounted, like below 6%? And second question, would you feel comfortable offering all that, like thousands and thousands of dollars of value for someone who maybe wants to, start high and then go low?
Yeah, so everything is a business decision. I don't look at the commission like a percentage. I look at it dollar amount. Like, what's the dollar amount that I'm comfortable with, Because we as real estate agents have all these rules that other people have created for us
that
don't exist in the real world. Like, you're your own business owner and you get to decide. For me, for a long time, like $20,000, $15,000 was a good commission for me. So I've even done like flat fees for people. Hey, let's do a flat fee, 15 grand, So as it relates to offering the services, yeah, I have offered them. I'm more volume based, meaning like I know that the more I do, the more opportunities it leads to, and then it leads for more opportunities for my team as well too. So I have done that. Everything is negotiable. You're the business owner. Here's a good thing for you guys. You guys are the business owner of the Jason Walters group, the Sam Benner group. You guys get to decide what is acceptable to you. If the minimum amount that you're willing to take is $20,000, that's you get to make that decision basically. But I've taken listings flat fee, 10 grand.
Me too.
10 grand flat fee. Give me 10 grand. You already have a buyer. I'll take care of all the paperwork. 10 grand.
Yeah, and I think the philosophy behind it is I want to
there are no rules.
Yeah, and I want to add more value. So it's interesting. It's like I'm worried about like a couple $1,000 when I can make 20,000.
Yeah.
It's like you know what I mean?
So about the being overpriced, it's all about the motivation.
Yes.
Because why? Motivation fixes price. So I had this lady in Santa Paula, older lady, like 95. Jose, I'm not going a penny below 1.2 million. Great, let's list it at 1.2 million. I knew the property was worth like 900.
What was her motivation?
950. her husband passed away.
Yeah.
She couldn't take care of herself anymore, and her caretaker told her she needed to be in an assisted facility.
Bro,
place.
she's gonna sell. I don't
Guess
care
what
what she
happened?
tells me.
Guess what happened? She sold, and she moved into that assisted feeling. So price, it's a
What'd she end up
smoke
selling
screen.
for?
Like she actually ended up selling to a neighbor for a discount, like for $900. Market value was like $980. She sold for less. The reality is, one thing is what they tell you. Another thing is you thinking about it like, come on, lady, you're 95 years old. Like, you're saying that you're not gonna sell the property. Everything around me signals that you're selling the property. So it's a calculated risk. So being attentive to those sorts of things. If somebody wants to overprice, but their motivation is up here, I'm taking it.
Agreed.
I'm taking it. Motivation fixes price.
All day, every day.
Cool? Yeah.
Good.
Right?
I think we have time for maybe one more.
Yeah.
One more question, comment, concern, observation. Yes, Peter.
What do you feel about the strategy some realtors use, whether it's their own money or they're working with an investor to say we guarantee the sale, if it doesn't sell, we'll buy it?
Yeah, I think it's great, because what I think happens is like if your product or service is not differentiated from others, you become commoditized and trapped. Okay? Hey, newsflash, we all have the same photographers.
No, my photographer's better.
Oh, it's so much better.
No, but we all have those, but it's how you sell the photographer.
But do you see what I'm
if
saying?
you're really good at selling that photographer, your photographer perceived value could be better.
And we all put it in the MLS, which actually does what?
So the money is in the
Selling of the service, right?
It's how you sell the service.
Right. So, but
That's
the
where
idea
money's
is to Peter's question is like we all do the same thing. So if I don't have a way of differentiating, then I get commoditized and trapped. So making bold, aggressive offers creates perceived value in the minds of the consumer, and it separates you from others. It's just that we don't have the intestinal fortitude, and we don't understand the risk-reward ratio.
Now,
So if I said to you, if I was like, hey, I guarantee you that I'll sell your house in 30 days. Otherwise, I'll pay your utility bills until we do. You might be like, really? That seems like a huge risk to that I'm taking on this huge risk. But we're gonna have a conversation about price, and what's the probability that it'll sell within 30 days? Pretty high. Not only that, if you had to pay 2 utility bills that are $400 and you make 30,000, would you give a shit? No.
it's a business decision.
But you guys are so like, this is my money. You don't want to fucking spend a nickel. You understand? So, or if you said, I guarantee you that I'll sell your home. Out of 2,000 homes that I listed, we went back and looked, only 10% of the time when I took a listing did it not sell. It's a 90% chance that that's not going to happen. Not only that, we forget, we get to set the terms and conditions. So if I said to you, look, I guarantee you I'll sell your house within the listing agreement, and if I don't, I'll give you $3,000 for the inconvenience. That's bold. But guess what? I can decide the listing agreement has to be 6 months. I can also decide that you have to use a professional photographer. You have to let me use a lockbox. You have to let me, you see what I'm saying? I get to decide the terms and conditions.
You make
so
your rules.
If you add that all up, that bold, aggressive offer, look, I guarantee you that I'll sell your home. I also guarantee that I'll do it within 30 days. And if I don't, I'll pay you your utilities until we do. And I guarantee you that we'll sell it within the listing agreement. And if I don't, I'll give you $2,000 for the inconvenience. That seems super aggressive. But is it actually? Is it really that risky? No, not only that, if I got 10 listings and one of them, I had to pay the $2,000, would you pay $2,000? What's your average commission?
Like 18.
18,000. Would you pay $2,000 to make 180 grand? Why do you think all those billboards are up? Because they work.
We need to think more like business owners.
You see, that's what gets the phone to ring. Well, you mean to tell me, partner, you're going to pay $2,000 if you don't sell my house? That's right. You know, one of the challenges with agents is that they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is. It sounds like that's what you're looking for in an agent. Is that right? Say yes. You know what the great news is? You found what you're looking for. May I make a suggestion? Boom, set an appointment. But now I get to pre-qual and I get to decide, A, if I want to go, B, if it's worth my time, C, I get to decide the terms and conditions. Does that make sense?
This is a line that I learned from Jordan Cohen. If you guys, most of you guys know who Jordan Cohen is. I actually got the opportunity to shadow him for a day. And one of his lines that he showed me was, and I use it for staging now, because when I'm competing for staging, they're like, oh, this other agent wants me to pay for the staging and then get reimbursed at the close of escrow. And I'll say, you know what they're telling you right there? That they're not confident that they can sell your property. So here's what I'm willing to do for you, is I'm willing to invest in your property to get a sale. And this is what Jordan taught me. He said, look, I look at your house like a business. If I was gonna open up a business, I'd have to invest in that business, and if I invest in that business is going to produce money. And if I don't invest in that business is going to falter. So I'm looking at your house like a business. In order for me to get you the outcome that you want, I have to invest into it. Most of the agents don't want to do that. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Would you give me the opportunity to work with you?
Or I'm curious, is that the type of agent that you're looking for? Yes. Well, the great news is you found him. Let's go to work. Not only that, what people don't know is it only cost him $500 to do that because he bought all the
more than that now.
Whatever it is. What is it? $1,000?
It's like $1,500.
$1,500, but he also spent $200,000 on furniture. Do you understand? It's a competitive advantage that people can't compete with. They're not willing to outlay the $3,000 a month to stage the damn thing. But he can do it for whatever it is, $1,500 each time. Do you see?
Yeah. Cool. I think that's questions.
I think that's good on questions, comments, concerns. I'm wondering, before we clap, because it was dope, I'm wondering, did you guys get clear on strategy and tactically what you need to do? Yes. Was this a productive and valuable use of your non-refundable precious breaths? Yes, and that's what we're here for. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here with us. That's what we're all about at the Elite Builders, is adding tremendous value as much as we possibly can. And the thing that I want to ask you guys now is a question about like exit strategy, right? Because I was selling homes, 2,000 homes, 100 a year for 10 years. I did 200 deals a year twice. And I had no real way to get off that transaction treadmill, right? I was using money. One of the intelligent things I did is I took 50 to 40% of everything I earned every year and I invested it into the things that pay me money, okay? What I'm aware of is that works, it just takes a long time. And I don't know about you guys, I wanted it to happen faster. So it wasn't until me and Jose discovered a vehicle that gave us an exit strategy. I want you guys to realize something. A year ago, I was selling 150 homes, working 70 hours a week. Now, what sacrifices do I have to make to do that? Time. And who suffers for that? Period. There's no way around it. These people are like, oh, you're balanced. I'm like, that's horseshit. If you want to do big things, you're not going to be balanced. So my kids are 13 and 10. I have 5 more summers with my son and 8 more with my daughter. Do you know 90% of all the time that you spend with your kids are up until the time they're 18? People get 27,550 days on planet Earth. It's 75 years in the industrialized world. I'm 42, I've used half. If I sleep 8 hours a day, I'm going to sleep through the third of whatever's left. It happens quick, okay? So it wasn't until I found this vehicle, I now am now I work Monday through Thursday and have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Only because we found this vehicle. So our intention in sharing this with you is because we sincerely want the same thing for you, okay? And what we're doing is not unique, it's this model that's unique. A model that gives you equity, a model that gives you rev share, a model that caps your commissions to where you're keeping more of what you're earning. And that's why it's revolutionizing, and that's what we're gonna go over together as a team. Right?
I love it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we see some legit challenges in the real estate industry, okay? Legit. And here are the challenges. Most agents are not planning for financial freedom, okay? They're on a transaction treadmill, just doing deals. I would be in mastermind groups, because I was usually the youngest one. I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole. If I'm still on this call in my 60s talking about contacts and listing appointments, I fucked up. I did something wrong, okay? They're on this transaction treadmill and they're not being coached. I'm curious, if you hung out with me and Jose on a regular basis, do you think that would cause you to be more productive? Yes. 100%. But the training in your offices is by middle managers who do 2 million in volume. How can they teach you how to make $1 million when they've never done it? Do you understand? That's the challenge of this industry. That's why 80% of you change companies every year. That's a dirty little secret nobody wants to talk about, okay? Now, why is EXP as a model disrupting the industry, radically changing the industry? Why did we go from 20,000 agents to 90,000 agents in 3 years? Hey, which, by the way, I want you guys to realize something. Who was selling real estate from 2020 to 2021? Hands go up. Did any of you go to the office? Maybe, but, okay, but as an industry, were we going to offices? No. Did it matter? No. Louder. No. You mean to tell me we were all doing this model for a year, we just didn't call it that? Yeah. But you had the same expenses. You had a split that didn't cap. You had royalty fees. And at the end of the year, you didn't own anything. You know what you get? A piece of plastic. And a hat that says capper.
Wait, the pat on the back.
Pat on the back. Hey, great job.
Or the lunch.
Or
They
hey,
take you to lunch, bro. They
oh
take you to
shit,
dinner.
bro, you gonna take me to lunch?
$50.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
With a gift card for Amazon for $50? This is what we settle for, right? So, but we're living through this massive change. I had to explain to my son the other day what Blockbuster was. He literally did not know. How many people besides me remember that whole process of going and picking one out, and you go with your significant other, you're like, what do you want to watch, babe? No, I don't want to watch that, right? Netflix comes along. What's the technology that allowed Netflix to do its thing? The internet. It's the underlying technology. They were a $6 billion company that disappeared off the fucking planet. They don't exist anymore. Huh? There's one more. Oh, it's in Alaska.
Oregon.
Or wherever it is. Oregon. Okay. The second, my first sales job was at Circuit City. That was a dope job because they taught me how to sell. You'd sell like the extra warranty, you know, and they gave you a little bit extra money. Yeah, the Chespy, the cheese. And they dominated appliances and they dominated home electronics. Amazon comes along. What happens to Circuit City? Disappeared off the planet. What's the underlying technology allowed it to happen? The internet. High-speed internet. That's what's happening with traditional brokerages and EXP because of the high-speed internet. Okay? That's exactly what's happening. Check this out. The CEO of Blockbuster actually said this, and it's in print. Neither Redbox nor Netflix are even on our radar screens in terms of competition. Is that not the height of hubris? Is that not like just fucking so overconfident it's dumb? I want you guys to realize something. How do you think we see things? What do you think we use to see? Our eyes. What if I told you that's not how we see? What if I told you it's our mind that sees? And if my mind is blind to the possibility, my eyes will be blind to the opportunity. The CEO of Blockbuster, Mr. Jim Keyes, his eyes were blind to the fucking opportunity. It was right in front of him. Could they have gobbled up Netflix?
50 million.
Check this out. Reed Hastings offered it to him twice, not once, twice. He tracked him down at a ski lodge. He offered him Netflix for $50 million. He was like, nah, people are always going to want to pay late fees. How is that any different than saying, nah, agents are always going to settle for pieces of plastic?
Not only that, but like the way that he was completely closed off to it. What do other brokerages say about EXP? Like, oh, don't go to that event.
Who are the bad guys?
We're the bad guys. Like, don't go to that event. They're going to talk about EXP. You don't want to go there. They're the bad guys. But are we really the bad guys, or are we looking to help you guys?
That's right.
Like, think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I know that me and Jose are on Brokers in this Geographic Areas live streams. Because as soon as we go live, they're like, what the fuck are they doing?
We're the bad guys, though.
They're telling them what's really going on and what's available. Okay? So, think about this. I remember when I was a kid, when I came out here to California, I only had two choices of places to stay. A friend's house or a hotel. Is that the case now? No, we have all these short-term rentals, right? Do you know that Airbnb has a larger valuation of Hilton hotels and they own no real estate? What's the underlying technology? The internet. Are you guys noticing a pattern? Okay? This is the traditional model of real estate. I want you to, guys, get really clear about what I'm about to say to you. Okay? The traditional model of real estate is feudalism. It's where the word landlord comes from, the lord of the land. There's a CEO or king or queen at the top. They go out and they sell a region. Millions of dollars somebody buys a region for. That regional owner goes out and sells individual franchises, individual offices. That individual office owner goes out and recruits agents. The agents do all the work. They work the land, never own anything, and all the money flows back where? To the top. By the way, what structure is this? Oh, shit. Everybody's always saying, you guys are a pyramid scheme. I'm like, really? What the fuck are you doing? And the thing I want you to be clear about is the peasant. Where are the agents? Peasants. They never own anything. Ask yourself a question. At the end of your working year, this year, if you're not with EXP, what are you going to have to show for the time that you spent other than the commissions that you earned? Nothing. A piece of plastic and a hat.
Pat on the back.
And a pat on. Hey, thanks, bro. What if there was a company that gave you equity in the actual company? You actually became an owner in the company. Ask yourself a question. How many deals would you have to do to become an owner in your current company? The mothership. Not even the office, the mothership. It doesn't even exist. You understand? Here you actually become an owner in the company just by doing deals. Amen to that. Hallelujah. Amen. So the way that it evolved is this was the traditional model, right? And this is traditional models now. Century 21, Remax, they're all this. That's what they are. Okay? Now, then the model evolved to the guys with the red. I know because I worked with that company for 15 years. I own part of an office, guys. And their thing is profit sharing. So you have a split, goes into the office, they pay all of their expenses, and if there's any money left over, 50% goes to the agents and 50% goes to the owners. You know what the problem with that is? Offices cost $30,000 to $40,000, $50,000 a month to run, which none of you guys go to, by the way.
But guess who pays for them?
You do. And you rarely use it. They have to give you cakes, cupcakes, and fucking hot dogs to get you to come. Do you understand? And from 2020 to 2021, you weren't even going there. Okay? So the problem is they cost so much money to operate, which means there's not that much profit, which means there's not that much profit what? Sharing. This model dominated because it gave you something. You actually could have a part of something. It was a small piece of something, but it was something that wasn't available anywhere else. That's why they went all the way up to 160, 170,000 agents. Make sense? Okay. The problem with this, though, is this is based on physical offices. Let me ask you a question. After COVID, which business would you want to own? One that is based in the physical world or one based in the digital world? Louder?
Digital. Why?
Businesses that were in the physical world got annihilated, destroyed. Ones in the digital world crushed it.
Zoom.
Right? Make sense?
Yes.
And by the way, you guys are all asking questions. People ask me all the time, well, where do I go if I have a question? Like, where the fuck did you go in 2020, 2021? You sent a text message, you called somebody, or you sent an email, right? That's what we do. It's no different, okay? Now, EXP comes along and what they do is they eliminate the region. They eliminate the owner. They eliminate all the staff at the office that's not doing anything and cost money. It's true, right? And now it makes you, the agent, the owner. This is the only model that does that. Makes you the actual owner. And it's proven. There's a lot of copycat models, but here's the question. Who would you rather be with? A proven model that's went through all of the stages of growth up to 90,000. That is an S&P 600 company. On the S&P 600, the 600 most profitable mid-cap companies in the United States, $150 million in the bank. They're profitable in this environment, which is unique, and their stock pays a dividend. Would I rather go for a sure thing or we'll see? A sure thing. That's what I would rather go in. I want to get rich. I want to get rich for sure, not get rich quick. Okay? And what you get in it, because when you eliminate all of these expenses, now they can give you more. See, most of the models that you guys are at, as you do more deals, you pay them more. Here, as you do more deals, they pay you more. Which would you rather be at? Make sense? So you get technology, training, health insurance, stock awards, revenue share, and collaboration. Think about it. In your office, how often do you get to talk to the top producers? Never. Why? They don't have a financial incentive to help you. Here we do. That's why me and Jose are here helping you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a model difference. If people don't have a financial incentive, it is immature to think that they're going to care. And it's not going to be kumbaya, like we're all fucking friends, sitting around. Dude, at the offices, are any of those people going to buy homes from you? So I don't understand. You see what I'm saying?
And the model only works if you guys produce. Like, meaning the model doesn't work unless people produce.
Which is why we're here helping you to produce. Okay? Here's the, like, burn this into your brain. You will never get rich renting out your time. You must own equity. That's the truth, guys. You will never get rich renting out your time. You must own equity. My dad has rented out his time for his whole working life. He's a furniture repairman. He's a beautiful human. He doesn't own anything. Because of that, his life is getting more challenging. Because what has happened with inflation? What he used to be able to afford at $50,000 a year is much less now. He's having to shrink as a result for that. If you want to participate in the bounty that is America, you have to have equity. Period. Ask yourself a question. The model that you're currently in, does it give you equity? I know the answer already. It's no. Okay? Am I getting an upside of, the actual company itself? So the way it works is the brokerage is in the cloud. Okay? Think about brokerages as platforms. That's all they are. A platform to process transactions. YouTube is a platform for content. Make sense? Instagram is a platform for social. It's just a platform to process deals. And what technology does is it eliminates average and it eliminates middlemen. That's what's in the process of happening in the real estate industry. I firmly believe in 10 years, 50% of all agents will be with cloud-based brokerages. 50%. Okay? And they compensate you like an owner, right? So this is why me and Jose are so excited about this opportunity, which is the innovation curve. So at the beginning of when something's brand new, when Elon Musk said in 10 years everybody's going to, people are going to be driving electric cars, what did everybody say? You're fucking crazy. I'm curious, do you see Teslas all over the place now? Check this out. Did you know 9 out of 10 people don't have a Tesla? Do you think they have room to sell more Teslas? Hey, 9 out of 10 agents aren't with EXP. You think we have room to grow? Fuck yeah, we do. Right? Now, at the beginning, though, this is like the growth. 2.5% of people are those innovators. They see something before anybody else does. Then you have the early adopters. They have a high tolerance for risk. They're like, yeah, let's do it. These are people that got in 5-6 years ago, right? That's 13.5% of the growth. I know, this is good shit. Then you have the early majority. They need more people to do it so it feels safe. It's most of you guys in this room, okay? It was me. I needed Jose, I needed people close to me to do it, so I felt safe. Right? Then you have the late majority. They have FOMO. Feel like they're missing out on shit. Right? Agents are like deers. One leaves and they'll go, huh? And then they all fucking gallop. Woof. Notice when an office mentions they're closing down, everybody's like, huh? And they fucking, woof, they just run in different directions, right? Then you have laggards. Those are people who still have flip phones and AOL email addresses. Whenever I talk to somebody, they got an AOL email address, I'm like, you're 65 years old, I know it. Okay? But here's the exciting part, guys. Where is all of the growth? 68% of the growth is in this middle phase, early majority, late majority. I believe that where we are with this opportunity is right here. Is at the beginning of the early majority. Right? Glenn Sanford, who's the founder of the company, is like, yeah, I feel like in 10 years we're going to have 400,000 agents. That means we're only like 30% of the way. It's unbelievable.
In 10 years, 1 million agents.
Right? His goal is to give away $1 billion in rev share. Wow. A fucking $1 billion in rev share.
To the agents.
Which, by the way, I want you to get really clear on something, because most people don't understand what rev share is. And remember, it's not our mind, it's not our eyes that see, it's our mind that sees. So I want to paint a picture for your mind. Everybody familiar with YouTube? YouTube said to their content creators in 2009, hey, if you bring people to our platforms, remember, platform, process. You bring people to our platforms, and you have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time, we will give you half of the revenue that we generate from your content. Is that a scam? No. I'm sorry, is that a scam? No. What is it? Awesome. Compensation plan. That's all it is. It's a rev share compensation plan. That caused them to become the second largest search engine in the world at record speed, and then Google bought them. EXP does the same thing.
But everybody calls it a scam.
They call it a scam. Because here's the process for most people. You ready? First, they laugh at you. Okay? Then they call you crazy. Then they call you a crook. You're making too much money. You got to be stealing. Then you know what it is? They call you for advice. This is YouTube for agents. If you bring agents to the platform, which is just to process deals, they will give you a portion of the cap that they send back to EXP. YouTube made 15-year-olds millionaires. And you will see very shortly how quickly what we're doing is growing into a meaningful stream of residual income. It's just an option that's available to you, okay? But if you want to stick with plastic, it's up to you. Is this you, bro? Is this your retirement plan? I love people like, I love real estate. I'm like, that's disgusting. You have not been on enough fucking appointments. Where like, I'm like, hey, your home is really nice, but I'm gonna have to burn my suit because you have a fucking cat farm. Right? What's the exit strategy, guys? Am I even thinking about it? This comes from Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. There's different ways to earn income. E, S, B, and I. E are employees, okay? They talk, you know what words they use? They use words like benefits, They use words like salary. How many people have people in their life like that? They're super risk averse. They go towards, they think that that's safe. I think that that's actually really risky. Because if that goes away, they don't have shit, right? The second is self-employed, doctors, accountants, attorneys, and real estate agents. Okay? These people get taxed the most, by the way. Least amount of benefits in the tax code, and you get taxed the most. B's and I's, business owners, they own a system, and I's invest money, and the money works for them. These, only 5% of the population earns the majority of their income from here. This is where all the tax benefits are. This is where all the fun is. The question is your model keeps you here. It doesn't give you an opportunity to become a business owner with equity, and it doesn't give you the opportunity to create an additional stream of income. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So what's your I'm done number? You know, I speak with people and they say out these numbers like out of ego. They're like, I want to make like $20,000 a year, a month in residual income. Like you're an asshole. Like you haven't even done the math on that. Okay, the math on $1 million a year, by the way, is $83,333 a month. I've done it. I know the math. I'm very clear on what it takes. But if you want $20,000 a month in residual income, that's $4.8 million invested at 6%. 5%, excuse me. In order to get $4.8 million, how much would you have to gross? You guys live in a state where 51 cents of every dollar you earn goes somewhere else. $6 million, you said. $6 million you'd have to gross to end up with the 4.8 to actually invest, because you got to pay taxes, you got to live. Here's the question. If that's your number, how much of the 6 million do you already have? You notice the energy in the room? And with what you have, how much more would you have to earn to get there? And how long would it take? 1 lifetime? 2 lifetimes? Do you understand? If the average person makes, 95% of people make less than $120,000 a year, even if they're at that peak, that's 10 years to get to $1 million. Take you 60 years to get to 6 million. You following me? So here's an example. And again, this isn't to make it about me. It's not to brag or boast. Remember I said this is YouTube? It gives you the capacity to do that. I've been with the company for 15 months. That's it. Not 20 years, not 30 years, 15 months. I own part of an office. I sold it back in order to participate in this opportunity. In those 15 months, I've personally been responsible for 38 agents joining the company. Those 38 have went out and got, what is that, 146 or 140 something, right? There's now 176 agents in the revenue share group. Guys, the office I left had 130 agents. I'm bigger than the whole office that I left in 15 months. I have the leverage of labor without the capital of labor. I have the leverage of labor without the management of labor. Do you follow? My rev share last month was $14,230. In order for me to receive that in residual income, I know because what I did in my career, remember I was telling you I invested like 50% of everything I earned? Well, that ended up being around $2 million that I've invested in real estate to earn about $9,000 a month in residual income. It took me 17 years to do that. This took me 15 months. This is bigger than that with no money. It's because of the model. It's because it's YouTube for agents. Does this make sense?
Not only that, but like an option that I had was I could open up my own brokerage if I wanted to. I'm a broker. Like, so why did I choose to work with EXP versus opening up a brokerage, you know? In a brokerage, you're limited by location, meaning if I want to invite agents to work at my company, I could only do so in Southern California. I'm partnered with a guy in Florida. Aaron and I would never be able to do, so it allows you to capitalize on every single relationship that you have anywhere in the world.
Yes.
The second thing is, if I open up a brokerage, I have all the liability. I'm dealing with all the calls when EXP, the platform, already has all of that taken care of.
They deal with all the
you.
paperwork.
It's like being your own broker, receiving all the compensations without any of the risk and without any...
The management or capital. Do you see why top producers are doing this? Guys, if you want A+ talent, you need an A+ opportunity. Do you know what the problem is in most models? Is as soon as the A+ talent starts to grow, they leave because there's no opportunity for them. Here, the A+ talent stays because we get compensated like owners, okay? Here's our senior partner, Lars. For those who are elite builders in the room already, we're doing a gala in January. He's going to be there speaking. Yes?
Could you explain the structure of compensation? What is it that we get by participating in the company?
Yeah, we'll get to that, 100%. So this is one of our senior partners. He's going to be speaking at our gala. He was a top agent with KW. He owned part of an office. He was doing $2.6 million a year in GCI. He only worked in that business 50 days a year. Once he saw this opportunity, sold it, closed that down, started doing this. In almost 3 years, this number's old. He has 1,500 agents in his organization. That number's accurate. It's $85,000 in 1 month. Because this is YouTube for agents. Do you understand? And that's the equivalent of $20 million invested at 6%. Which in order to get 20 million, I'd have to gross 50 million. How many people on planet Earth will ever gross that amount of money? None. Infinitesimally small. 0.001%. Okay? And by the way, this has time freedom and location freedom.
Compounds too.
And it compounds. So this month, I've personally brought 36 agents to the company. But I was the sponsor for 4. Imagine taking 4 listings and 36 more show up, or 32 more show up. Do you understand? It compounds, it gets bigger. The issue with just focusing on real estate is that it doesn't compound. I sell a home, I have to go do it again. Does that make sense? Now, some agents say to us, well, you know, I don't want to become a recruiter. I'm like, fine, don't. Like, I don't care. All you have to do, though, is just get really good at inviting people to things. How many people were invited to be here today? Do you see? You just got to get good at inviting. Hey, my business partners are doing a thing on a listing presentation. They've sold like 4,000 homes in their career. If I could get you access to it, would you come? Is that hard? No. And then we do the rest. Okay? But fine, you don't want to do that? Check this out. What about equity? Remember I told you that they compensate you like an owner and they give you stock for doing your job? At real corporations, okay, if you work for Nike or you work for Gillette, one of the benefits that they give you is they give you equity for doing your job if you're an executive, correct? If you perform at high levels. They also allow you to use 5% of your pay to buy stock at a 10% discount. That's a benefit, that's a bonus, right? At EXP, they give you 5 to 6 ways of earning equity. When you sell your first home every calendar year, you get $200 in stock. The calendar year resets every year. So the moment you do one deal, you become an owner in the company, okay? If you bring people to the company and they do their first transaction, only happens once, you get $400 in equity, okay? If you do 80,000 in commissions plus 20 deals on top, which in your marketplace is maybe like 25, 30 deals, they'll give you $8,000 of stock every single year that you do that. If you do 80,000 in GCI plus 20 deals on top, you go to a couple EXP events a year and you teach some classes in their online university, they'll give you $16,000 back in stock every single year that you do that. And they allow you to buy stock at a 10% discount, 5% of your commissions. Now here's what's interesting. I worked at a company for 15 years. I was the top agent there. I owned part of the office. When I left that company, how much money do you think I left with? Zero. Hats and pieces of plastic. In 15 months, guys, 15 months, I did 80,000 in GCI plus 20 deals on top. I received an $8,000 stock award. I have partners that have sold property. When I joined, the stock was trading at $11 a share. Now it's at like $20 a share. The current value of just my awards are $32,000. I've been awarded. Again, ask yourself a question. Where you work, do they reward you for doing transactions? The answer is no. I know it is.
The plastic.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Plastic's dope. Now, I also use 5% of my commissions to buy stock at a 10% discount, right? So that's currently worth $39,000. So the cumulative value of the portfolio in 15 months is $71,000. So you mean to tell me if I was doing this for 15 years, I'd have $1 million in equity, but instead I had pieces of plastic?
Not only that, Aaron, but think about it this way too. Like if I was going to open up my own brokerage, like I'm a licensed broker. What issues would I have? What are the 2 issues that most brokers have? One of them is retention, right? If you're earning $5,000 in revenue share, can somebody else recruit you?
No, you become unrecruitable. And if I've earned all this equity, is somebody else going to be like, hey, I got a better deal?
Very rare.
Very few. And what you guys don't see, which is interesting, what the models are doing is they're scrambling, okay? They're giving you money in some instances to join their companies and making you sign 2 to 3 year agreements with clawback provisions because they know that most agents don't have too much money. So if they had to pay back $20,000, they're not going to leave. Do you understand? That's what they're doing because they know that there's something better out there, right? And for the life of me, I don't understand why, if you're on a 15% split that never caps, that means you're just paying more money as you do more transactions. You're not keeping more of it. You see what I'm saying?
Coldwell Banker offered me $250,000 to work with them. They said, hey, look, and they thought they were giving me a great deal. And I said, hey, guys, I'm not interested in a pay advance.
That's all it is.
Like, I don't need the money. I'm like, come back to me with like 5 to 7 million, and I would consider it. And they were like,
yeah, because he saw through that. It's a payday advance.
it's a payday advance.
I will give you $250 now, which over the 3-year contract that you're going to
You're gonna
sign
pay
is like
me
$75 a
$800.
year. But I'm going to get 15% of all or 10% of all your commissions in perpetuity.
It's a draw.
It's a draw. They know they're going to make 100. So let's say they pay 75. He's going to pay them 180 on 1 point whatever million. They're going to get all the money back plus some. You guys just don't see through it.
Pay advance.
It's just a payday advance. That's all it is. Okay.
The other problem that brokerages have is recruiting. Like, meaning like it's only the broker or the team leader recruiting. The good thing about this company is that because the agents get compensated to bring on agents, it's going to continue growing because everybody gets compensated like an owner.
That's right.
Everybody.
And not only that, the epiphany I had is I was like, oh, wait a minute. These team leaders are going to have to compete with me.
And me.
That's not a fair fucking competition.
So the reason people are leaving other brokerages and coming with us is because the team leaders or the managers are having to compete with me and Aaron, who have sold close to 3,000 properties together.
Agents don't want to be like that person. They want to be like us. Not only that, do they have Instagram accounts? No. Do they have podcasts? No. Are they posting on all channels 3 times a day? No. Are they touching 250,000 accounts? Are they actually adding value?
Not only that, could they teach you how to win listings at a listing appointment? Can they teach you, like, hey, look, you're all the booby traps, guys. Don't step on that, because if you do, you're going to lose $20,000 is the moment you step on it.
That's right. So whoever adds more value wins, guys. Period. So our intention is to do that, to provide as much value as we possibly can. Okay. So here becomes the question: what seems more reasonable or realistic? $4.8 to $7.2 million in the next 20 to 30 years, or attracting 10 to 15 agents to the company? What seems more realistic? 100%. I said to my wife the other day, I'm like, yo, we're going to build this to 1,000. You know what she said to me? You already have. That's what's going to happen. It's going to build out that way. Okay? It's just a matter of time because of the compounding component.
But which one is more realistic? Like
right.
5 to like, and then if you think we're lying to you, just ask yourself, how much money do you have in the bank account right now?
Right.
You know, like, do you have the $5 million in the bank account, or what has your previous history showed you? Like,
right.
It's going to be a lot easier for you to invite 10 to 15 agents to earn the amount of residual that you need to be able to one day step away from the business if you want to.
If you want to. And that's the problem. I see so many agents, and particularly as the marketplace changed, because they raised their lifestyle when it was good, and now they're freaking the fuck out because they don't have any other additional streams of income. They don't have equity that they could sell. They don't have additional rev share that they can lean back on. Right?
Not only that, but what happens if you get sick today? Like, what happens if one of us unfortunately gets diagnosed with cancer today? What happens if your significant other gets diagnosed with cancer? What happens if one of your kids gets diagnosed with something really bad? What happens if, for whatever reason, you can't go to work tomorrow? Is there something there that would help you with that?
That's right.
If I stop selling real estate today, that's still coming in.
That's right.
No matter what.
I know. You know what I told Jose? I was like, bro, what's going to happen? When we started doing this, because I had this vision, I'm like, we're going to thousands, bro. My vision is we're going to be at an event, and there will be 4,000 people in the audience. I'll be doing a presentation. My numbers will be behind me. Jose will be with me. I'm like, hey, first I want to give a shout out to the elite builders in the room, and I'm going to say elite, and a fucking 1,000+ people are going to scream back at me builders. Like, that's where we're going, right? And what I became clear on is, because remember, I was stuck on that transaction treadmill, but I didn't have something that had time freedom and location freedom. So that $14,000 that I earned last month in residual income and rev share, did I have to be there to do that? Could I be anywhere on the planet to get it? You see?
Not only that, but even Aaron taught me something that I never thought about it this way. He said, what's the definition of a business? And I'm like, just, my parents were business owners, they weren't. They had a job. The definition of a business owner is, can the business run without you? Meaning, if you're not there today, could it run without you? Because of the platform, this can run without you. And the second definition of a business is, can it grow without you as well too? This can grow without you as well too. That's the true definition of a business. Having a storefront where you have to be there 9 to 5, 9 to 7 is not a business, it is a job.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, so what comes with partnership, okay? Because in order to join the company, you have to be sponsored into the company. So that your sponsors become critically important, right? Because what are they adding value-wise above and beyond just access to the brokerage firm? Well, we've created a value stack very consciously, purposefully, and intentionally to create massive amounts of value. So I have a coaching company with 100 coaching clients. 12 of them make over $1 million a year. 75% of all the coaching and training that I provide becomes free to our partners and anybody that they partner with. Again, if you hung out with me once a week, do you think you'd be more productive? Yes. 100%, right? So I do a group call once a week. There's like 40 people on that call. Who here is on that group call? Is that shit dope? Yes. 100%. Crazy value, right? So agents pay $250 a month to be on that call. For our partners, it's free. And it's free to anybody that they bring to the company as well. We have 2 role play groups. Remember I asked people who's role playing on a regular basis? There's like 3 people in the room. Well, I recognize that there's no security in this business. There's only opportunities. So role play is a must, but what's the challenge with role play? It's finding partners, right? So we have a role play group, 1 in the morning at 7:30 for setting appointments and 1 in the afternoon just for the listing appointment. We handle all the scheduling. All you have to do is show up 5 days a week. Agents pay $1,000 a year to be in that group, about $85 a month. It's free to our partners and anybody that they partner with. Okay? I have 2 separate mastermind groups, one for agents doing 250 to 500 in GCI. They pay $400 a month to be on that call with me. That's free for our partners and anybody that they partner with. I have a mastermind group that Jose's in called the Freedom Builders. You have to do $750,000 a year or more to be in that group. About 12 people in that group. They pay money to be in the group. It becomes free to our partners and anybody that you partner with. Okay? And I know a lot of you guys, you say like, well, I need to do more deals in order to like attract people. You don't. I'm your credibility. Jose's your credibility. All you have to do is invite them, and you're giving them access to the value stack. Does that make sense? Now, Jose also has things in the value stack. You can go ahead and share that.
Yeah, so I actually started recording myself maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't know what I was going to do with it at that time, but I know when I was starting off, Aaron had certain recordings of himself in live selling situations, and I would listen to them, and that was helpful for me. So I basically recorded myself in live selling situations over the 5-6 years with expired phone calls. So I gave you the list of people to call, right? Now, if you actually want to try your first expired, what if I told you that there's 20 to 30 live recordings with live prospects, and you can actually listen to it and know exactly what I said in that situation. Every objection is going to be there. That way you guys can go out and produce. What if I told you that there was live listing presentations of me doing the exact same thing that we did today? That's available to all of our partners exclusively. It's free. It doesn't cost anything.
That's dope. He also does a call once a week like I do.
Yeah.
And check this out. So Jose, this is me like, you know, kind of just some recognition on his part. He's 36, about to be 37. 1.8 million in GCI. He owns 59 doors at 36 years
57.
old. My bad, 57. Who's counting? Okay. Over 300,000 followers on TikTok. 122,000 on Instagram. He does a call once a week. You can ask him questions on marketing. You can ask him questions on investing. You can ask him questions on sales. And it's free. Do you think if you spend time with him on a regular basis, you can learn some shit? 100%. Do you see how, where in the current models that you're in, the training that you're getting is totally subpar? It's not at this level, okay? And then our senior partner, Lars, the guy I was mentioning before, he has a coaching company called Real Estate B School, where it's an online platform. It's a really robust university where he teaches people everything they need to know to scale. Because again, remember, he's the king of scaling, 2.6 million in GCI, but he only worked in that business 50 days a year. He charges agents $900 a month to have access to it, and that's free.
Not only that, but he's the guy that people went to when, like, if you look at like the Dan Beers of the world, the Kyle Whistles, they all learned how to grow a real estate team
from him.
So the reason I partnered with Lars was I wanted somebody that could help somebody scale a real estate team if that's the direction that they wanted to go in.
Yeah, so if you look at the value stack, if you need mindset and being a ninja salesperson, I'm your guy. If you need marketing, Jose's your guy.
Yeah.
If you need scaling, Lars is your guy. So we've created a value stack that agents would normally have to pay.
If you need technology,
yeah, this guy's the guy.
Who better than Jason
right?
Walters?
So what I'm aware of is we've created a value stack that agents would normally have to pay thousands of dollars a month for, but it's free. And it's because the model allows us to do it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's what you're getting with partnership. So here's what I'm aware of. If somebody invited you here, one of two things happen when people see this, okay? One is they're like, holy shit. My experience is if you're hardworking, smart, and ambitious, once you see this, you can never unsee it. Warren Buffett has a saying, there's only few things that you can sufficiently explain to a virgin with words. Okay? Once you experience this, you can't unsee it. I promise you. You're gonna go back and you're gonna get a commission check and be like, fuck, I could be capped already. You're gonna go back and be like, fuck, they did give me a piece of plastic. I could get equity. You're not gonna be able to unsee it, I promise you. So one of two things happen. When they see this, they're like, wow. All of that makes total logical sense to me. The fact that I get access to this level of coaching, plus I get equity and rev share and that whole other thing, I'm ready to start onboarding right now. If that is you, and somebody invited you here, find that person and say, yo, I'm ready to go. And we can get you connected with the team so we can begin the onboarding process, right? The second thing that happens is people say, well, all that sounds good, but I want to think about it, I want to pray about it, I want to talk to my significant other, I got to talk to my broker because we're friends. And I'm like, bro, find out how real quickly how friends you are once you mention what you're going to do. Like, get all your shit out by Tuesday. That happened to Ellie Sale. So whatever, if you want to think about it or pray about it, that's also fine too, right? So the question to be asking yourself at this moment is, what would be a next step that you would feel comfortable with? Because usually people have to be exposed to this like 8 times before they make a decision. That was my experience. The also question that you have to ask yourself is, are you going to sit and watch as this company completely disrupts the industry and makes hundreds, if not thousands, of millionaires and multimillionaires, or are you going to participate? Me and Jose would love to be that relationship for you, to help you, not only grow in your business, but also grow. My goal and objective is to help 100 people to become financially free and independent. Some of them are in this room. So with that, I want to say thank you kindly for taking the time to be here with today. And we sincerely look forward to the opportunity to not only partner with you, but just add value in the future. Thank you very much, team.
Peter? Okay, Peter? You guys have a microphone for Peter?
You can pass this on to your kids, and it doesn't end with.
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. So Peter asked, is this willable and transferable? And the answer is yes. So with what I'm building here, if something was to happen to me, my wife Carla would still get rev share. She just has to be licensed, be active, right? And it is willable and transferable. It's a great question. Yeah. Not active in sales. So that's also a really distinguishing characteristic, because there's other models out here that are like, oh, we do rev share too. Well, there's differences. One is you, one difference is in this other model, real, you have to actively sell real estate in order to receive rev share. Isn't the point not to sell real estate at some point? The second is that you have to have a certain amount of frontline qualifying agents in order to receive full rev share on subsequent lines. With EXP, you receive rev share on all lines no matter what. It just won't be the full amount. It's a huge difference. The third difference is theirs only goes 5 levels deep. The way that this builds out is the last 2 levels are the biggest. Do you know who owns the 2 biggest for them? Corporate. It's another version of the same shit. There's somebody who's, you guys build it all out and we'll take the lion's share of the money. Make sense? So there's differences, and agents don't, they don't take the time to like really look at that. So if you're thinking about this and you want to have a confidential conversation, reach out to us, because we can explain it to you in a way that'll make sense.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then if you were invited by me, you can go on this QR code. If Aaron invited you, you can go on this QR code. If somebody else invited you, reach out to that person, and that person's happy to connect you with one of us too, and we're happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
That's right.
From the bottom of our hearts, we just want to say thank you for everybody that attended. We hope that there was some value. Aaron and I will hang around if you guys have any additional questions for anybody. And then, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys, and we hope that this was helpful.
Let's go. And the way we're going to end this, before everybody gets up, we're going to end this the same way that I end all of my business meetings. Okay, all the meetings that we have, there's a very specific way that we end it. We give 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Okay? I don't know if you guys know what that shit is, but the way that it works is it's 1, 2, and then woo, like as powerful as you can. You let it all out. Okay, so everybody stand up. And I want this to be legit. I want this to be reflective of the amount of information that you learned, be reflective of the energy that you brought, be reflective of the value that you've received. So I'm going to say, everybody ready, and because I have a tendency to imagine that somebody's going to be like, woo, it's not time to go woo yet, okay? So it goes, everybody ready, and I'm going to go 2 claps and a Ric Flair, and on me it'll be 1, 2, and then let it out. Everybody up for this? Say aye. Aye. Ready? Give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! Have an amazing rest of the day on purpose. We hopped on a call with people who make $1 million a month via social media. The first thing they told us is, your thumbnails suck.
I find it totally obnoxious